Thank you for staying. Let's get into our first story now. She is 17 years old and in her final year at a senior high school. She got pregnant, was thrown out of the house, and forced to stay with her 22-year-old boyfriend. 9 months later, the young nursing mother longs to go back to school to get ready for her West Africa Senior School Certificate examination. Joy Prime's latest documentary, Classroom Mothers, produced by Emmanuel Jivenu, explores the startling figures of pregnancy in senior high schools, as well as the frantic efforts of stakeholders to keep these pregnant girls and young mothers in school.
Gina is 17 years old and is in her final year in school. She gave birth barely 2 weeks ago. She had come home for vacation and became pregnant.
The guy proposed to me in April, so he asked me to visit him in his house, and I went. So when I went, the first affair that he had with me, I got to know that the next month, that was in May, I didn't have my menses.
Soon after, she went back to school. She dreaded the worst after 2 months of missing her period. Gina did not tell her mother or her aunt with whom she stayed that she was pregnant. But in her 5th month, her teacher, who had learned about it, could not keep the issue away from the family.
So in May, I didn't have my menses. The other month, the menses did not come. So I went to the hospital, and then they told me that I'm pregnant. I didn't tell them myself, but when I went to the school, I got to 4 months, getting to 5 months, when my madam told me that now, when my pregnancy is getting to, she needs to tell my parents. She first told me that I need to tell my parents, but I told her that I'm scared. When I tell them, I don't know what they'll do to me, so she should help me in telling them. So he then called my auntie, and then he told him everything. And I came home when we vacated. That was in May, June. And I came home. So when I came home, they called me and then got to know that this is the point.
She was thrown out of the house and was asked to go and stay with the one who got her pregnant. So she packed out and went to stay with her 22-year-old boyfriend.
When I came back from school, my auntie that I'm staying with, she threw my things out. But my grandpa told her that she should have patience. So she should pack the things back to the room. She should have patience. When the boy comes out, the boy was not around when she sacked me. So when the boy comes out, I can go to him so that he'll take care of me. But she didn't allow. She said still she will not accept me to be in her room whilst I'm pregnant. My grandpa went on his knees and then begged her. So she told me that I should come into the room, but she gave me days to go back again. So I should make sure I leave her house before giving birth.
Gina yearns to return to school to prepare for her final exams, but she fears that without support, that will be a mirage.
I know I've made a mistake. That's why I've been thrown out from that house. I know it's a big mistake that I've made, but I need someone to help me so that I can further my education, so that I can be lighting in the future, because I want my future to be the best for me.
Now, preliminary findings by the Ghana National Fire Service on the 2 fire incidents that gutted the girls' dormitory of the Wa Senior High Technical School revealed the fire was caused by an electrical fault. Upper West Commander of the service, AFCO-1, Henry Asiedu, says though they are yet to finally conclude their investigation on the 2 incidents, they also suspect a box iron was left unattended to. Rafiq Salam now reports from Wa.
For 2 continuous nights, Wa Senior High Technical School was ravaged by fire. First was a twin 1-story building constructed almost a decade ago by the Ghana Education Trust Fund, GET Fund, and used as a dormitory for the girls. It caught fire at the blind side of the students when they were at prep.
I'm Apam Juliet Winters. Yeah, and actually we can't best tell what happened because we were at class. We went for class preps, and then around 8 o'clock it happens. If you can check at the back of the building, there is a window. The window opened, and then we don't know whether it was somebody that entered or something like that, but it's not illegal connection.
24 hours later, the second fire incident occurred at the girls' dormitory, where 58 of the displaced students were moved to.
When we went there, smoke was coming out from that is Get Found and Rollins house. When we entered there, everything, our textbooks, our uniform, gari, shit, almost everything is just gone. Now what we are even crying for, we the third years, the textbook that we are using, now all of them, it got burned. How are we going to survive? You see, so the government should do something for us. The government should make sure that maybe they should bring us textbook or just find a place for us for we the third students.
Out of a total of 316 girls, 114 were affected. 6 of them were traumatized and hospitalized at the Wa Municipal Hospital. Headmaster of the school, Ismail Sali, threw more light on the situation.
We have lost all the mattresses, the beds, and the personal belongings of these students. Okay. All students are still in school except 6 of them who have not yet been discharged from the hospital. And it is not that they were physically affected, but I think they are traumatized.
Cause of the 2 infernos for now is not known, but the Ghana National Fire Service, who were there to douse off the fire, has not ruled out electrical fault in their preliminary findings.
So from the few information that we gathered, that was what one of the teachers said, he heard of an explosion, a big explosion. So by the time they got here, the place was well alight. And so we are suspect, but we cannot jump to conclusions. We have to carry on with our investigations and come out.
So that's for this place?
Yes, that is for this place. What about the other place? The other place, we are suspecting it may be electrical, it may be the box irons that they are using. Okay. Because on our rounds yesterday we did our rounds and we saw that some box iron, there was a particular box iron, and the charring around that box iron was quite intense. Okay. And also when we started looking at the circuit breakers, we realized one of them has stripped. Okay. So we are also thinking it might be electrical, but we are still in the investigation process.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali, who was out of the region when the incident occurred, visited the school on his arrival in the company of the Upper West Regional Director of the Ghana Education Service, Abdul Razak Kora. He assured the students and the school authorities that everything will be done to ensure that life in the school is brought to normalcy within the speed of light.
Please be assured that GetFund will take action immediately. What I have instructed the headmaster and the regional director to do is to formally put into writing what they want done here, so that next week I've scheduled a meeting with the Minister of Education and GetFund administrator so that the facilities can be worked on with the speed of light.
Dr. Bin Sali issued a fiat to the Ghana Water Company to extend fire hydrants to all educational institutions in the region.
But I've already told the regional commander that would instruct Ghana Water Company to ensure that fire hydrants are extended to all educational institutions in the region. So I'm going to meet officials of Ghana Water Company so that that is done.
Before the Ghana National Fire Service concludes their final report on what might have started the fires, tanks are already wagging on what happened to earlier reports that similar investigations were conducted on some senior high schools gutted by fire. Will this also go the same way? Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Let's talk politics now. And some members of the National Democratic Congress in the Asanwase constituency marched to the party office to protest the change in parliamentary leadership. They burnt car tires to demonstrate their displeasure, especially with the removal of their Member of Parliament, Muntaka Mubarak, as the minority chief whip in Parliament. Love FM's Kwesi Deborah has more in this report.
The Sawase MP, Muntaka Mubarak, has been replaced by Kwame Abuja as the minority chief whip in Parliament. He is among leaders of the minority side in Parliament, reshuffled by the NDC leadership. But some constituents of Asawase are displeased with the changes and want the National Party executives to rescind the decision. At a press conference, the NDC constituency secretary, Mugiz Madi, prevailed on the leadership of the party to reverse its decision.
We are yet to come to terms with the news as to whether or not such decision is taken by the Functional Executive Committee, of which both Haruna Idrisu and Honorable Muntaka Mubarak are members. Whether or not the Council of Elders of the party were consulted. Whether or not the entire minority members of the parliament of our party were consulted. In as far as these questions remain unanswered, we are compelled to come to the conclusion that the action is undemocratic as it lacks proper and wider consultation. We are by this statement requesting the party to withdraw these changes with immediate effect and to do the needful. These two honorable members are institutions within the party and for that matter need to be treated this way.
Some angry party supporters later marched to the regional party office to burn car tires in protest.
They want to destroy our party, but our simple message is without Mutaka in the parliamentary leadership, no vote. That's our message.
Personnel from the Regional Police Command intervened to avert destruction of property. Ashanti Regional Chairman of NDC, Augustus Nanakwesi Andrews, calmed the aggrieved party supporters and assured their grievances to be channeled to the appropriate quarters. Our party has regulations and they are elders. We will make sure your grievances reach the national executive. Please, we implore you to keep calm and not resort to vandalism. We should unite to take power in 2024.
Abai ende mobile de ebedi yem sadia ne yempe abutra mwanyano munya sa abutra no petition no meso meje na bebia ese yede ekono yebetru de akọ ama asomdwe ayida aba.
Reporter for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Now, hackers and attackers of all types imitate people, companies, and even computers with the intent of tricking people into giving up personal information in order to gain access to something valuable. Fortunately, computer science students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have come up with the Anubis Network Intrusion Detection System, ANITS for short, which keeps track of all network activity, including data transfers between computers and inbound and outbound traffic. On Tech Thursday, Lava Firm's Kwesi Deborah speaks with the brain behind the innovation, Clement Osei-Sumwa.
Technology is known as the Anubis Network Intrusion Detection System. The system keeps track of network traffic and sends alerts when it notices unusual behavior or well-known dangers such as spoofing. Users are allowed to investigate further and take the necessary precautions to thwart or halt an action.
As a country, we cannot underestimate the essence of data and network security, since cyber criminals have upped their games when it comes to data theft. So, and as a country again, we can't be relying on foreign products all the time. Since even if you go to the market, some of these products, these tools, are very expensive. So this gave me the motivation to come up with Anubis, which is a network intrusion detection system. An intrusion detection system is a system that sits inside a network. So let's say you have 5 computers connected together. Now the Anubis can run on only one of the computers. And what it does is, it monitors the network and all activities going into the network. It alerts the user. So in case somebody tries to perform any malicious act in the network, it sends alert back to the network administrator for let them to know that somebody is trying to impersonate somebody or steal information. Demonstrate Anubis. Like I said earlier, Anubis is in 2 parts, the detector part and the sniffer part. What the detector part does is, it scans the network and enumerates the number of hosts and their MAC addresses connected to the network for the administrator to know. And the sniffer part, it sniffs the network and actually tells you whatever packets are traveling inside the network. So over here, if you launch the detector, a small pop-up window comes and it asks for your network ID together with your CIDR. So if you enter that and you press OK, it scans the network with network mapper. It does a stealth scan so that even if there are firewall rules in any of the machines in the network, it can still bypass these rules. Then it enumerates the users connected in the network together with their MAC addresses. So when you are given this, you have the option to trace these devices into a whitelist. So you use the trace button, and over here you have a window which actually creates the whitelist of MAC addresses. Now over here I'm using MAC addresses instead of IP addresses because IP addresses are dynamic, but MAC addresses are static. So let's say I am eliminating this MAC address from the whitelist. I don't want to trace it, and I trace these MAC addresses without the other one. So I'm going to confirm it and close this. The next time I run the detector, any MAC address which was not trusted into the whitelist will be flagged as an intruder. So I'm going to run the detector again. Sorry, let me do away with this. Then the MAC address I eliminated from the whitelist has been flagged as an intruder. So now the network administrator can take further actions to, say, go to the router's interface and block this MAC address from ever connecting to the network again.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
Now the Junior 6 of Wadara Basic School have emerged victors in the Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize G-STEP exhibition challenge. More than 800 submissions were received from junior high schools in the Greater Accra and the Shanti regions to compete, but 50 schools made up of 4 to 6 teams were selected for the G-STEP exhibition challenge. The tech fanatic students showed off their ideas using technology to solve societal problems. We have more in the following report.
Have to press on the siren here. That will create the awareness of a driver so that the person will stop.
This is illuminated child road safety device displayed by the Junior 6 of Wadara Basic School during the exhibition session at the G-STEP Challenge. This device has a safety signpost indicating children crossing and an arm-like stop sign with lead inscribed in the writings of the stop sign. It works by holding the shaft of the stop sign to alert incoming vehicles to stop for school children to cross. The team demonstrated how the device works.
And then detach the ICRSD from its socket, project the hand towards the road like this, just enough to be seen by the driver. Then switch on the button to display the stop sign, which is quite visible at night.
The team explained to JoyNews what informed their decision.
The close proximity of our school to the Okonfanochi emergency unit poses great danger to our students, as sometimes our pupils are knocked down by vehicles. So we saw that there was indeed the need to bring into materialization this product, and in couple with that also, a very similar incident happened in Kumasi Islamic Senior High School, where the students had a clash with the drivers and police because they complained the drivers knocked down their students as they attempted to cross the road.
All 50 schools exhibited a prototype of the device they have built.
Okay, this is called COP 1.1 LPG leakage detector. And we developed this thing as a result of the death of our dear colleague, who is called Kofi Oparibia Phyllis. She lost her life as a result of gas explosion.
Cow dung, grinded orange peels, grinded sawdust, lemongrass oil, and neem leaves. So all these materials were mixed together with wax. So the wax is what has made it compacted like this. So we pour the mixture in a test tube, and when it got dry, we removed it. So this is how you use it. You light it, draw few of the liquid and stick it to the saucer and put it at a place where it will not come into contact with anything that can burn.
The smart cane is specially and purposely made for young visually impaired teenagers like us. Okay, so what this does is that it senses obstacles in the path of the visually impaired, and then it signals them by vibrating.
Speaking to JoyNews, the Education Minister, Dr. Yawo Osei-Duchum, said government is ready to give grants through commission for technical and vocational education and training to private companies willing to support students.
We have a grant program through CTVET that will give money to companies that want to commercialize this. And when I say give money, it's not a loan, grant. So it's just a question of facilitating that space. So it's not going to be that because we don't have money, we're not able to commercialize. There's funding for companies to commercialize what they have invented. So that's what makes me excited. That it's no longer a talk shop. There's a do shop where you can really do some big things because there's funding available for us to accomplish that goal.
He added that the education sector has chalked many successes, but there are still challenges. Prince Owusu and Sons report read to you.
Well, now the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center has sensitized officers of the 6th Battalion in the Northern Region on gender mainstreaming. The KAI-PTC is implementing an 18-month project aimed at building the institutional capacity of the Ghana Armed Forces to address challenges hampering the deployment of women to UN peace operations. The project, dubbed Enhancing Ghana Armed Forces Capabilities to Address Barriers to Women in Peacekeeping, is being funded by the Global Affairs Canada. Martina Bugri reports.
Mission to create awareness on gender mainstreaming with CAF was informed following a research conducted by the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center between 2019 and 2020 that showed a number of setbacks that affect women when it comes to being deployed for peacekeeping. It is against this backdrop training sessions have been held for the country's armed forces. Speaking in an interview with JoyNews, project manager for the LC Initiative Fund project, Colonel William Obochi, said the research identified 3 areas that limit women's participation.
And that report identified 3 major of the issue areas as high barriers. These are eligible pool, limited eligible pool, which means that about how many women are available for deployments. Even though our numbers are high, we have a lot more numbers of women in service support roles. So their numbers are skewed in service support roles. We don't have a lot of them doing infantry roles and other roles that put them in combat situations. So it's a high barrier identified. Then we have social exclusion also identified. Social exclusion is basically what we do within a group or outside the group that encourages or discourages members of the group from full participation. So sometimes name calling, insults and bad jokes can lead to some members withdrawing from the group and preventing them from full participation. So it's been identified that we have such issues, and it could be one of the reasons for limited participation for women. Then we also identified gendered roles as a high barrier. Gendered roles are everywhere. They are issues that emanate from our culture that tells us that women perform certain roles and men have to perform certain roles. And these have actually influenced how women apply to be employed in the military.
Colonel Abochi said the acceptance level of the agenda has been largely supported by the top and rank of the forces.
Adopted this kerosene toll to reach out to everybody working at the unit. So in the end, we expect that they will be more gender aware, they will be aware of the nuances and issues affecting not just women, men also, in the work environment, such that when we tackle these issues, affect our attitudes positively, will create a better gender working environment in the armed forces. The acceptance level for the military, I would say, is good, because when we go to the discussions, there are a lot of resistance from soldiers, officers, and even officers at the top level. But that is just natural. Because of our cultural background, it's going to be a gradual process. But we believe that we will eventually succeed in driving home the message and achieving change of attitude towards a better working situation for the armed forces.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
On that note, we end the news, but stay with us. Up next, we get into the papers with energy expert Kojo Poku. Thank you for staying with us. Energy analyst, I should say, Kojo Poku is our guest. He'll be joining us shortly as we get into the newspapers, but the latest developments, some of which the papers capture that tussle, if you like, back and forth in the National Democratic Congress, the minority end in Parliament, and the vacillation. Do we have a new crop of leaders or do we not? We've seen it in Tamale. We've seen it now in Asawase, both constituencies with some protests coming up. But the leadership of the party has always gone down this road. The only difference would be that it is happening, like Dr. Rashid Draman mentioned yesterday, midstream. Now there is that call that hold on to this decision and let's wait till the end of May. But how will things pan out? Well, you can share your thoughts with us via the live stream, #AM Show. What do you think about the latest? We have energy analyst Kojo Poku joining the conversation. Kojo, memawache.
Bejo suminya afinchiapa.
Afin kombeto ya. I say afi yenya ntwetwe nkomo ye. Intimida say na yeshia wa ha ye betwetwe nkomo.
First time we are meeting, so I want to take this opportunity to wish all your lovely viewers Happy New Year, a year of good health and God's blessing.
Nanga me pese ye adom kakra adom TV ana adom FM. So what they FIFA potokase.
Unim pa se viewers best start boost here. Why would you want to go there? Your viewers will start texting you say, "Masa, are we on the wrong channel?"
It was just intentional. I wanted our viewers maybe at a point to wonder, wait, did we go to the wrong channel? No, you're still live on JoyNews. I hope you're well, Kojo. It's been a while.
I'm very, very well, and I hope you are well, because I think we had a chat. Lovely of you to call, and you were not feeling too well. So I hope you rested and you've taken time out and you've recovered.
Yes, I have. That was somewhere getting to the tail end of the year and at the start of the new year. But we're back in full force for God and country. Let's
do it. God and country. That's what I believe in.
Yeah. Just a quick one, though, especially as you mentioned country now. The flag bearership of the NPP, we've seen Alan Kojo Chemating, we've seen the Agric Minister, Dr. Efria Koto, resigning. We've seen other developments. Kennedy Japan coming in, Dr. Nyahu Tamaklu saying, where is this 1-2 from? Kennedy coming back to say, look, I've been in the party, I've done stuff. Then recently he talks about agriculture, and people remind him of that interview he had with my own dear sister with whom I was on the show before, Mama Vio Uswabwaje, talking about agric, and that if you go into it, you're just wasting your money. All of those things have come up. We've seen certain figures prominently showing up. What is Kojo Poku doing? Are you still interested in becoming flag bearer of the NPP?
Ben, this question, when you ask me, I don't even know how to answer. How does a man, they have just resigned from the job that they were given. I have resigned from the job I had far back as February to do this thing. I'm a businessman through and through for 21 years. I decided that enough of my private business, I can't be selfish. I need to go out there and give my best to the country. So there's no going back. I'm still doing this. We've been doing this for a year now, and it's going very well. There was a recent online poll, I don't know if you've cited it, where...
I have, actually.
Say that again?
I have, actually.
Yes, where all the cuckoo dams that people mentioned only got like 5 from the online people, where me, I was 10 next to Alan, and even the vote between me and Alan was very close. So look, anybody who is taking the submarine KMP campaign not serious, you don't take us serious because we are not a yacht. We are a submarine. We are coming for you.
I see. I was just asking because, not because others have resigned, but because I've seen some movements here and there and caucuses. I mean, recently we also heard of the fact that Alan Kojo-Kyerematen was meeting with some religious leaders, all in a bid to, stoke the fire of his campaign. That's why I was asking you whether maybe you are not falling to NATO membership, like Alan Kyerematen says, no action, talk only.
Listen to me, right? Listen, everything that everybody else is doing is to endanger visibility, popularity, and those things. But this contest is not about that. This contest is about an electoral college that you need to convince to vote for you. We've had our brother Alan, or I'll say our uncle Alan, go on TV and talk about being president. You need to be a leader of a party. And in that presentation he did on TV, he didn't mention what he would do for the party. The party members are looking at you and thinking, well, maybe he thinks he has a different platform to get on to be president. But if you're thinking of being a leader of the MPP, then you need to start addressing the problems of the MPP foot soldiers, the MPP grassroots, and let them know that you'll be a good leader. All these things are just charades. It's just, look, I'm very close to Osubempa, right? The man of God, and good morning to the man of God if he's watching this morning. I'm very close to him. If I want to go to his church on a Sunday, he will by all means open his doors to me. I don't need to go to his church. You understand? So some of these things are just, look, people are just basically doing them. I don't know why they are doing it, but it doesn't count even 1% of the electoral college that we have. It has no relevance to that.
Right. Anyway, point made, though, like Sir John would say, fear delegates. So it's the delegates that must be focused on. And we've seen them dribble people in the past. We'll see how it goes. And we can only wish you the very best when that time finally comes. But let's get into the papers.
No problem at all.
Starting with the Daily Graphic. World Bank rewards nation for emission reduction. We'll be getting into that story. Government should cut expenditure. That's the banner headline. IEA prescribes reduced spending on free SHS and National Cathedral. And we see more of the board members resigning or saying, do the right thing. Let's have an audit, like recently we saw from the Action Chapel, Duncan Williams, as well as Reverend Anaba, Eastwood Anaba. 2022 BEC results out. We've had a number of people reaching out. Are they out yet? Are they out yet? Well, they are. Ghana committed to safeguarding human rights. That's according to the Attorney General. And we've seen some of those incidents. Human rights, yes. 8 children, school children, drowning in the Volta Lake. School children crawling on the floor to study. All of those, they have rights as well. Children deserve better, dignity. Finance Ministry develops expenditure management guidelines. Let's get into some of those stories, starting from the first one right in front of us. The Institute of Economic Affairs has stated that prudent cutting of public spending can save the public purse about 45 billion Ghana cedis, enough to create fiscal space for the economy. That, the governance and policy think tank said, would convince Ghanaians that all, including the government, were engaged in burden sharing. The IEA urged the government to cut its expenditure on some of its flagship projects, including those on infrastructure, the free senior high school policy, the National Cathedral, and on goods and services as the most convincing demonstration of good faith for people and institutions to join the domestic debt exchange program voluntarily. The Director of Research at the Institute, Dr. John Kwachi, and the IEA's international scholar and editor of its Ghana Policy Journal, Professor Alexander Bilson-Dako, made the call in a presentation to the press last Tuesday, detailing the position of the public policy on the DDEP and suggesting ways to stem the economic challenges. Now, Dr. Kwachi, who addressed how the fiscal space could be created, stated that the public sector compensation averagely accounted for 20% of government expenditure and also absorbed over 30% of the total revenue for the 2023 to 2026 budget projections, saying there was considerable room to reduce that expenditure item. It goes on and on, talks about the government machinery, and we see the number of staffers and everything, infrastructure, goods and services, free senior high school, and more. What is your take on this on the back of the latest Auditor General's report? I saw this image recently. I'm just going to paraphrase. It says, if you don't tackle corruption, spending, and all of that, you always end up at the doorstep of the IMF. We have all of these problems. Are we dealing with them the right way? Even as we contemplate putting up a national cathedral as well. Kojo?
Not at all. We have not been, and rightfully so. But my little challenge with most of these things is when people add the free SHS as part of the problem. Look, if everybody is
I don't think, just a quick clarification. I don't think people say free SHS is part of the problem. It is how it is being run that is part of the problem.
It's on the front page. It's on the front page. I mean, you can't put free SHS and the National Cathedral in one line. That's unfair. Really and truly, if you do that, you're not being fair. And the graphic to report free SHS and the National Cathedral in one line, for me, it's unfair.
Well, it's merely, it is reporting what the person said. It doesn't necessarily, but I get the context you're putting it in.
Right. The point I'm saying is this. If anybody has paid attention to the budget and look at how much is spent on free SHS, that person will realize that free SHS is not part of our problem.
True.
Okay? Now, the next stage of the conversation, which is cut government expenditure, 100% right, 120% right. You remember as far back as November 2021, I was on air. I wrote papers that, look, there is no way the government can do a budget for 150 billion Ghana cedis, right? And me and you had this extensive discussion, whereby our total revenue was 70 billion at best.
Right.
So you are going out there to say that you're going to spend 150 billion, but your revenue is 70 billion. So where are you going to get the 80 billion from? Then later, after a lot of these conversations, the minister came back, the finance minister came back and said, oh, they've done a 20% reduction and they've gone to, I think, 130 billion. Again, where are you going to find their 60 billion from? Okay, so the conversation of cut expenditure, it's 100% conversation. We seem to have this obsession with bridging infrastructure gap. As far back as 2010, when we had found oil in 2007, and we were going to go to first oil in 2011, I said that there is no point trying to do all these mega projects that government wants to do at that time, borrowing heavily to do all these infrastructure projects in the name of bridging infrastructure gap. We can only save money. When we save money as a nation, it does two things. It strengthens your currency. It now gives you reserves that allow you to plan properly. When you're borrowing money, half of that money don't even come into the country because part of that money is a G2G, is being given to contractors from the emanating countries, and most of that money does not end up in your economy. So why are you basically borrowing money that doesn't come into your economy? Only the edifice comes into your economy. We have had instances where Chinese contractors have brought everything as much as cement and iron rods into this country. Okay? So we should have saved. And it's not too late. We can still start saving because the only thing that will save our currency is if we save money. All these mega projects that we are trying to do, I have said repeatedly that one of the things that we should scrap immediately is the Agenda 111. There's no need to build 111 hospitals across the country when the existing ones don't have even incubators, don't have proper equipped laboratories. Some of them don't even have children wards that are well equipped. Some of them don't have theaters that are well equipped. So why are you going to build 111 hospitals? So everybody who talks about expenditure is dead on the money. And that is where the focus going forward is. And that's what the IMF will let you do. This is something that we could do it ourselves. And I don't see how everything the IMF is going to prescribe to us, okay? Look at the problem in the country now. Look at how much people are losing in terms of debt exchange. Look at how much we are losing in terms of pension fund because of the haircut. How much are we getting from the IMF? $3 billion. Really? Look at all the money that is being talked of. It's way more than the $3 billion we are going to get from the IMF.
Exactly.
We are going to do all this exercise so that IMF will come and tell us what to do and give us $3 billion. Does that make sense?
And even when you look at the latest Auditor General's report and what we're seeing in terms of COVID-19 spending, which we were not aware of, which we had been calling for, especially as media, for a long time, CSOs and all of that. And you look at all those discrepancies in there, isolation centers, 29 million and all of that, yet abundant, not serving any purpose. I dare say if we had a crisis right now, God forbid, but if we did, and we had to use some of these centers, it would be chaotic. Yet, Ganaman Nisika Uremudada. So those are the problems where, I simply don't get something about this country. And our leaders are so averse to criticism, like we've seen with the education minister. You put up, a docky in terms of schools in Pandai district and the northern region. And in fact, dotted across the country, they don't even have desks to study. Some of them are on the floor, crawling. Their knees are hurting. Which country does that? We highlight the issue, and then next thing you know, the education minister is, plaintive that we should be focusing on the good things. Do we not talk about the good things? But should we ignore the bad ones so that we work on them?
We should focus on STEM. Forgetting that for somebody to be able to go and to STEM, that person should have had an early childhood basic education. Without basic education, how is that person going to go and do STEM? Okay? So look, the focus is wrong. And I've said this over and over, and I say these days without any apology. The focus is wrong. Basically, what I need and you need and everybody needs to do is like, look, every year we've had the Auditor General come out with these documents, voluminous documents. We read, we can pinpoint about $3 billion of waste in the Auditor General documents, right? What has happened to recoveries? One of the things that the PAC committee should do before they now go into this year's audit, they should tell us what they did the previous year to recover what was recovered. Okay? We don't get any updates. Whether it was discrepancies, whether it was bad reporting by the Auditor General, whether it was true, whether there's proper mismanagement and the money was recovered, who was sent to jail, who was prosecuted, what cases are being pending, okay? We've had year on year of Auditor General reports telling us of voluminous monies that people are misappropriating or stolen. We don't hear anything again. The journalists don't follow up. The politicians don't follow up. That's it. PAC sits, goes into it, and then that's the end of it.
Right.
So it's a problem. It's a problem, my brother. We need to cut spending, cut the misappropriation, go after the corrupt, okay, and jail the people that needs to be jailed. Last week, I put up a document that I'm going to build the biggest jail in West Africa. And people said, Mr. Puku, why do you want to become president and build the biggest jail in West Africa? We need to build a jail to put all the corrupt people in there. And I don't think if you look at the number of corrupt people in the civil service and tech, you see, when we talk about corruption, it's not politicians.
The
not
technocrats.
All of them anyway. Technocrats and civil servants, my brother.
I mean, the politicians have their fair share, but I agree with you. The technocrats,
because they come into the
technocrats,
system and they get corrupted, my brother. They come in and they get corrupted by the technocrats and the civil servants.
Well, we'll see how that goes. And I've hoped against hope, but where things are headed now, I see some of these reports, I read them, and I just wonder whether this country has any real future. I am usually very optimistic, but I have watched things over time, especially in this Fourth Republic, leadership upon leadership, and I'm really beginning to wonder as a young person whether we're going to make anything of this enterprise. But God be with us.
I have said over and over, Ben, that the trajectory we are on, if we keep on that trajectory, we will not be here in 15 years. And that is something anybody can take my words for. If we stay on this trajectory and there isn't a U-turn, right? we are not going to be here in 15 years.
When you say we're not going to be here, what do you mean? Will Ghana collapse?
We're not going to have a country. We're not going to have a country.
Right.
We're going to be a banana state. Because guess what? How long do you think we can continue like this? With the level of youth unemployment, with the amount of people coming out of school and not having anything to do. Okay? You are churning out about 100,000 graduates every year. Okay? Look at the numbers of unemployed and look at the deterioration of industry. So compare the two. Look at the two scenarios. Deterioration of industry, nothing is getting better. The youth is getting agitated. There's 100,000 of people coming out of university graduates every year. Where is that boiling point?
You know, the interesting thing, there are places in this country where for decades they've not even been connected to the electricity grid. Parts in where I come from, the O2 region, I know places that still haven't been connected to the water grid, still haven't been connected to the electricity grid. In fact, recently in the Kpando district, Debi, for 50 years, they're now getting connected to the electricity grid. And at least for that, we can salute former President Rawlings, may his soul rest in peace. He did quite a bit of work, rural electrification, water connections, but there's still so much work to be done that we've taken for granted. And you also have, maybe reflective of most other countries, but a bit more in excess here. Every country you go to, you would see that. Just a point. Every country you go to, you would notice that the wealthy, the top 3%, hold about maybe 70, 80% of the wealth of a country. In this country, because we don't have the facts and the figures, that is part of our problem. Believe you me, there are people so wealthy here, and they are so wealthy on the back of so many dubious. You look at some people, you look at how much they supposedly earn, and you look at their lifestyles, and you can tell that there is something fundamentally wrong. But our system is such that we cover up corruption. We praise those people who are corrupt. They will end up in church, front row, gift collection, hey, and we're happy with such people. But we must bear in mind, like that saying goes, a day may come when the poor are so fed up that they will have nothing else to eat but the rich. Over to you, Kojo.
Well, Ben, look, marvelous saying, but let me give you a point. If somebody lives in the Volta region or in the rural part of the country, it doesn't have connectivity to water, he shouldn't kick himself too hard. People that live in cantonment, Laboni, airport.
But you have to watch that statement because we're all equal under the law. No, it doesn't matter whether you're in cantonment or
water. Ben, they are connected to the water, but they don't get water.
Right.
So it's not like some people live in certain parts of Accra and get water. The point I'm making is that if you would think that somebody that lives in Laboni and cantonment has water, right? They don't. So if somebody in the Volta is not connected to the power grid, he shouldn't kick himself too much.
In other words,
I'm trying to make.
People are connected, don't get water. You are not even connected.
You're in the same boat.
So God.
The fundamental problem of all these issues is that monies are going into what? The wrong pockets, as you said, okay? And we are condoning it. We are not doing anything about it. Like I said, look, the Bible have said a very famous and a beautiful statement. Spare the rod and spoil the child. And that is what we seem to be doing in Ghana. I think the spare the rod and spoil the child should be part of our national anthem.
Anyway, quickly with these stories, Kojo, we have just about 6 minutes to move on. World Bank rewards nation for emission reduction. The World Bank has supported the country with over $4.8 million for reducing deforestation and forest degradation emissions, commonly known as REDD+. The World Bank Trust Fund paid the money as a reward for the effort of the country in reducing 972,456 tons of carbon emissions under the first monitoring period of the program, which runs from June to December 2019. Ghana thus becomes the second African country after Mozambique to receive the money from the Global Fund. Just a reminder, Kojo, that in this, sometimes other countries, developed countries, come to countries like us who do not, create so much by way of emissions and even want to buy our emissions so that they'll pay you and then pollute in your name. All of that is also there. But there's also the story. Ghana committed to safeguarding human rights, that's according to the Attorney General. And he says Ghana is committed to safeguarding the human rights and freedoms of all persons and thus prohibits all forms of violence against all persons, the AG and Minister of Justice Godfred Yeboah-Dame has said. According to him, the state did not allow or support indignity and harm to persons, including minority groups, the vulnerable, and even those serving punishment imposed by law. Fair point, Mr. AG, but like I said, children are probably the most vulnerable in society. When you have them studying on the bare floor, within the sand. We saw what happened in Breman Jamra in the Tolon area. A school block, crashing on them, crashing them, so to speak, and all of that. Those two have human rights, like Child Rights International has put forth. The streetism that we see, all of that, those children also have human rights. If they are Nigerians or whatever, let's do what must be done. And for those who are Ghanaian, let's do what must be done. My simple take. Quick reactions to these two.
Well, I think one of the things that we should encourage in this country also is people should start suing the government and suing institutions.
Will it get anywhere?
Yes, it will. The courts will award and you get compensation. Yes. You've not heard a recent sue in the social media where some girl is suing some man. Even that is going to court. How? My brother. Listen, my point is that if the case you just mentioned, kids in school, where the building crashes on them, the parents should sue government. And the courts will award. You should sue. You see, we need to hold people accountable, my brother. If the right institutions are not held accountable, then we like that thing of, enkosishe, enkoho. We like that. And the only fear people have is that there's repercussion. So if government knows that they can be sued, if Ministry of Education or the contractor, everybody knows there is a repercussion, they can be sued. All these things will get better. The issue of carbon credit, I think Ghana, we are not exploring the carbon credit thing much enough. We plant a lot of trees. We are doing a lot of year of planting trees, and we are doing a lot of all this afforestation.
We say we plant the trees. If you were to ask, I can dare you on this, Kojo. If we are to go and say, okay, we said we're planting 1 million trees this time, we expended this sum of money. How many of those trees are available now? Trust me. Trust me.
Well,
I'll leave it there.
Ben, do a documentary on that. I mean, Joy has a lot of resources. You guys should do a documentary on that. With 2 years of planting of trees, let's go around and see where those trees have gotten to. Because at least those that we planted in 2021, by now, a year on, should really have gotten to a stage.
Fair point.
Let's do a program.
Fair point. Page 20, this should interest you. In about 20 seconds, I want your response. Finance Ministry develops expenditure management guidelines, and the Ministry of Finance has started the preparation of a guideline for the management of expenditure during emergencies. The Emergency Expenditure Management Guideline is expected to provide the government with administrative protocols in times of emergency, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, to ensure compliance with relevant public financial management regulations, which we broke flagrantly during the COVID-19 pandemic. We did so many things, the purchasing of masks, awarding of contracts and all of that. This country, I sometimes wonder if God must be very frustrated with this part of the world. I'm sure when God looks at what He's invested in this country, human resource, natural resource, and then He looks at what we're doing.
God is not looking at us. You see, if God is looking at us, if you read the Bible and you've seen the time when God had His eye on Israel, and you saw how His relationship with Israel was, okay? That's the time that you know that God was looking at some people, because there was a direct repercussion with things that happened. Even times when people challenge God's authority, He made sure that immediately He acts. Everybody talks about, the coming of Jesus Christ, the things have changed. No, it hasn't. Listen to what has happened. God no longer looks at us. He's tired, He's fed up. He's basically looking at other people, not us. Okay? So we are on our own. We need to think of ourselves. We need to do things for ourselves. This thing about the Management Act that is there. There are so many acts. There are so many policies. There are so many black and white. Who follows them? So look, you can do all the acts and policies. If the person that's sitting there does not follow them, what's the need? There's no point.
I am seeing some interesting tweets from Honorable Haruna Idrisu here. In response, I'll just check this very quickly on Twitter, because what I am seeing is very, interesting. It makes for very, very, very interesting reading. Just hold for me. I don't want to miss this.
I'm told he doesn't have a social media account. So is that verified?
And that is exactly what I want to check before I read anything, because there's supposedly a post by the former president. I'm not sure, because the number of views and likes I'm seeing there, well, it could be the case, but I'm not seeing. I have to be clear about this. And then the response that has been given. In fact, they appeared on both my gadgets just a short while ago. I'll cross-check that, and once we can clarify that those are the verified Twitter handles of the former president and the former minority leader, I'll look at those comments.
I'm told that Haruna doesn't have social media accounts. So
well, I'm seeing something here, and it's not verified, as in the handle is not verified, which is why I'm being a bit cautious.
I don't think it's his. I don't think there's a lot of mischief going on social media with people putting stuff out there.
Exactly.
And it's not coming from him directly.
So just to wrap, Ghanaian Times, so that story we've done already. Students Loan Trust sets up digital payment platform for loan recovery. That's what the Ghanaian Times captures. And then GHS records 221 new leprosy cases nationwide last year. The Daily Guide, Mahama snapped over Haruna shake-up, and EC US envoy discuss elections. I just want your quick thoughts on the entire shake-up in Parliament on the minority end and the turmoil that it seems to have stoked. What are your quick reactions? In Tamale, in Asawase, some of the members, the faithful of the party, have taken issue with that decision. Your take?
I think party members in the NDC should be patient. I'm sure from yesterday coming today, there's a lot of consultation and stakeholder meetings going on. For me, I can only comment on what I have heard reported, okay, because I've not been in any of these meetings. I heard that the reason for the shakeup is that they think that the economy is going to be front and center in the coming months towards the election, and that's why they brought Atufo in as minority leader. If that is true, then the person who made that decision does not understand the work of the minority leader in the House of Parliament, because if election is going to be about economy, then the minority leader is not the one that's going to lead the election. So why now make him appoint a finance minister, appoint a finance person to be the head of the minority caucus in Parliament, because the election is going to be about finance and the economy. So for me, there's a lot that I don't understand. I'm trying to reach out to people I know to get an understanding of what's going on. But, you know, the NDC have a very unique way of resolving their issues. And you know that at the end of the day, all these will be resolved, because they have a very strong elders in the party who can call people to order. So I know that we will see a resolution in that.
Well, Kojo, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're grateful for your time, and do have a good day.
You remember some time ago you said you're going to do like a story for kids, like a segment. What happened to that?
A story for kids?
Yeah, you said you're going to do like a kid segment. You know, like in the UK, they have the FYI. You were planning something like that, like you have a very big youthful following. I mean, because I'm on with you, and most of the youth that follow me now follow you.
Okay, that's a conversation I honestly do not recall, but that's a conversation we can have moving forward. Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you very much, my brother.
At the Daily Dispatch now, right before we go, Bawumia will be a good president. As vice, he is not really in charge. MPP's Asibe Yabua says so. And NDC changes in Parliament good at enforcing not a novice. That's according to Professor Ransford Jampo. On that note, we settle for sports. Up next, a lot of league action coming your way shortly. Welcome back on the AM show. We're grateful for your company. Now, we proceed to our big stories now, and we're starting with everything going on as far as the minority front is concerned in Parliament. What exactly is the picture? We've heard so many bits about 60, 70, 77 who supposedly are not in favor of the administrative decision taken by the National Democratic Congress. We've also spoken to some of these members of Parliament, and the discourse is interesting. but we'll be hearing from the horse's own mouth. Joining us for a discussion this morning, Dr. Akakpo Gabra, former NDC flag bearer hopeful. We also have Dr. Kobi Mensah, political marketer at the University of Ghana Business School. Sami Obeng is Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. We'll also have some of the members of Parliament on the minority end joining us for a conversation. Anas Nogbe is MP for Ashaiman. Mutawakilo Adam is a former member of Parliament for Damongo. And how about we spice it up with some educational, academic reflections on what is happening. Dr. Lansah is a development expert, senior lecturer at the C.K. Tedham University of Technology and Applied Sciences. But before we go to our guests, of course, I have to say a very good morning to Bernice Abubedu Lansah, my other half, on the show. I have to specify before I jump straight.
Good
yeah,
morning
what's up?
to you. Good morning to you. We need to find you the other half in, yeah. But we'll do.
Hey, you just jabbed me. You just gave me an uppercut.
We'll talk about that after the show. Good morning to you. And yes, a lot has been happening since we had the conversation about what's happening with the NDC in Parliament. And we know the police stalled or prevented what would have been destruction of property at the Asawase constituency office.
Same happened in Tamale.
In Tamale as well. And you can understand these are supporters of Muntaka Mubarak, who until the reshuffle was chief whip of the NDC or minority in Parliament. And then Haruna Idrisu, who is leader or who was leader. And so there have been a lot of fallouts. But the big question is, what is the party doing to bridge this or to fix the cracks that appear to be deepening? And we are grateful to have Dr. Kobi Mensah, political marketer with the University of Ghana Business School, and Sami Obeng, Executive Director of Parliamentary Network Africa. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the program. And let me start with you, Dr. Kobi Mensah. Interesting development. With the NDC especially, there are those who have said that this is probably a way to show that the party has strength, the party can take the hard decisions, and, you know, obviously with the calls for President Akufo-Addo to make a reshuffle. How do you think this portrays the party to the ordinary Ghanaian? I'm not talking about delegates and other people, but in the minds of Ghanaians, what do you think the party was hoping to achieve with this decision and move?
Thank you, and good morning to everybody, especially Dr. Gabra. My regards to him. Well, Bernice, I think that I'm of that particular school. I have always complained, or I've always said that our political parties are too weak. Why? Because we seem to actually kind of give the entire powers of the political party to personalities. If you look at since 1992. We have had, very strong personalities in our political parties. One of the reasons, because, to personalities in the political party, exactly, because when they assume leadership, whether presidential candidates, most of the time actually, they actually are the sources that the parties tend to get money, i.e., most people would donate to candidates because of the expectations they have, because of the quid pro quo they want to have. And as a result, the candidates become so powerful, it makes it difficult even for the political parties to plan. You can take, for example, maybe a constituency that a certain MP wants to win. Maybe the candidate also has an interest, maybe with regards to a certain candidate, they tend to plant their own candidate. It brings quite a lot of issues. But that is not how it's supposed to work. The political party is supposed to be in authority. It's supposed to take most of the hardcore decisions before a candidate is actually installed. And then, of course, with the candidate be taking decisions on behalf of the entire political party. But we have, over the years, had political parties that do not wield those powers. Meanwhile, when you go across some of our to some of our countries, African countries, we've seen evidences of ANC recalling its even a president, Jacob Zuma, for example,
when he was actually embroiled in quite a number of scandals. We saw, ZANU-PF recalling President Mugabe at the latter stages, because, he was actually bringing quite a lot of instability to the political party itself, not to even talk about the country. So we need to have our political party stronger. And I think that this is a reflection. Now, I tweeted that we are in a new dawn because if you look at the 9th Parliament, quite a lot of things have happened. We have had, hung Parliament. We have never had it before. We had MPP, parliamentarians asking the executive to remove the, the finance minister. We've never had that before. And now we have the party in Parliament of NDC in the coalition course with the party itself. A fantastic development. And I think that we need to actually look at that from a very positive perspective. Now, we can articulate quite a lot of issues, whether there were consultations or there were not consultations. But when you look at the communique and the behavior, it looks as though the entire leadership of the NDC actually took a very bold decision. And they are not wavering. You cannot actually, you don't even hear quite a large swathe of disagreement. In fact, the contentions are actually coming from the specific players, which is those parties involved. I mean, those candidates involved, their constituencies.
Doc, are you saying that? Sorry to interject, Doc, but are you saying that there are about 66 MPs whose names have been listed for wanting more engagement on this do not constitute a large, constituency for you when it comes to those who have registered their displeasure about how things were done?
They are significant, but they don't, because I've monitored quite a lot of conversations, going on social media, in the communities, and there seem to be some sort of agreement of the base of the NDC with the leadership. Now, those in Parliament, remember, during the vetting process, the large chunk of the NDC's base were very much unhappy with those in Parliament. They seem to have arrogated to themselves certain powers. And I think the leadership decision to sort of distribute those powers, it's a very good one for the grassroots. And I have monitored in the conversations over and over since this particular issue happened. And it seems to be that the base of the NDC, apart from those core people that are involved at their bases, quite a lot of people are actually in agreement with the leadership.
Interesting. So we are yet to hear if that engagement will happen. That's between these MPs and the party. But already we're hearing from some of those involved. Yesterday in the papers, we saw publications about reactions from Haruna Idrisu himself. This morning, about an hour ago, Dr. Kasia Latuforsin has made a Facebook post. We've also got our eyes on him. We know that there is likely going to be some sort of address. We will bring that to you when it's ready. We will be bringing you that, but let me just let you know what he's been saying. So he says, my dear friends, I'm honored and humbled to have been chosen to lead our illustrious and gallant caucus in Parliament. I thank the leadership of the party who have placed their trust and confidence in me. I'm also deeply grateful to colleagues, the rank and file of our party, and the Ghanaian people for their profound support and solidarity. I've held fruitful and positive conversations with my senior brother, Haruna Idrisu. I commend him for his admirable stewardship when he was granted the opportunity by our party's leadership. As leader, it will be my duty to represent our collective goals with unwavering dedication and high integrity. I have no doubt that with your support, we shall succeed. May God bless our efforts. And that is from Dr. Kasia Latuforsin there on social media. Like I mentioned, we know that he may be addressing all of us soon. So our man, Kwekwa Santa, is on standby for that. Doc, I'll have you hold on just a second. Let me welcome Dr. Kospio Gabra. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining the program.
Good morning and great day for all your wonderful listeners wherever they may be around the world.
Right. Sorry, we are losing you a bit. It appears that your sound is getting quite faint.
Can you hear me better now?
Hello, Doc. Well, it's much better than it was. So we've had reactions from leadership, from Parliament. What was your reaction when you heard about this reshuffle?
I thought it had been long expected because for many months there was awareness that there were some challenges in parliamentary lineup and also the parliamentary leadership. And of course, the current leadership, I believe, have been there for possibly as long as 5 or 6 years. And so sooner or later, just as others have been there before and have also moved on, a time would come when they would have to change. I mean, parliamentary leadership is not a permanent position for anyone. And so I'm sure if you look into the history books, and if the party wishes to share the information for the general awareness of the general public, you would notice that we've had at least 10 different minority and majority leaders of our party in parliament. And so this is just one of a fairly normal process which takes place from time to time. Maybe the public has not paid as much attention to it, or because of the apparent disagreement among some MPs. This has become a headline issue. Otherwise, there have been many, many changes over the years, and maybe nobody has taken notice except the MPs themselves.
Apart from the disagreement by some of these MPs, there are delegates, their party supporters and sympathizers who are not too enthused about it. In Tamale and in Kumasi, Asawasi to be precise, there was some protest. There were burning of tires, and security officials had to be called in to avert what could have possibly been destruction of the party's property. Is there any way you think the party could have communicated this better so that we wouldn't have this, or this is just something we can't avoid?
Well, I think it can be avoided if the party executive, the party members get to know and appreciate on a sustainable basis that there will be changes from time to time in the party leadership lineup, just as they themselves, national executives and party executives from all over the country, went and voted recently to change the party leadership. For that process, I suppose they understood it, partly because they had various payments from various sources within the party itself to travel from one area to the other and to come to Accra to the sports stadium for a day and a half and to vote for their leadership. So that kind of voting is understood because the general rank and file of the party, at least representatives of the party, will be involved in the voting. But maybe decisions through and the national headquarters from the same people that they elected is what may not be as well understood. So yes, if your point is that going forward, there should be programs of greater sensitization and better education of our rank and file to understand and appreciate that the appointments that are made to leadership positions in the party are not permanent appointments that anybody can take and hide in their bedrooms. That from time to time, anybody being appointed today will also be changed in the future. So even those who have just been announced also have to be aware that a certain number of hopefully years they will be changed, and that those positions are not permanent. So it is at this time that those who are being appointed now have to, their supporters who may be rejoicing may have to be aware that the rejoicing only is for a temporary period and not forever. Those who are unfortunately not aware of this and are either sorrowing or protesting, as you are suggesting, obviously need better awareness and education.
Right. So you have said that this was long coming. You've mentioned that you were aware that there were some issues with the leadership of the minority in parliament. The chairman of your party says this has nothing to do with functionality. And he says it's for preparation towards election 2024, for regional reorganization and representation. Is there something we need to know? Is there something you know beyond what the chairman has told us? For which reason you say that there was a certain problem with the leadership of the caucus?
No, except for the fact that, I mean, it's generally known that many Ghanaians and, of course, many NDC people were not pleased with the fact that almost everybody that was recommended for ministerial appointment got appointed, even though not everybody thought all of them were qualified for the position. So whatever took place that enabled every single nominated MPP candidate from becoming a minister or deputy minister, obviously it's a parliamentary issue, but I think there were reactions from different parts of the country that included from NDC members and MPP members, which indicated that there wasn't universal satisfaction about that. So that's just one such example.
Is it the case? Is it the case that from your personal interaction with party colleagues and members, there was the feeling that the former leadership was doing its own bidding and not that of the party, and was not in sync with what the party wanted?
No, I mean the former leadership did very well to the extent that they were able to elect a speaker of parliament that was not from the so-called majority side. That was a brilliant, whether you call it a coup or strategic achievement. But that does not mean that every single thing that was going on in Parliament has also received universal appreciation. And I'm only pointing out a few incidents that obviously in any Parliament, not everybody will be happy with everything that goes on in the Parliament. Even the parliamentarians themselves have had occasion to not happy about one thing or the other. I think we remember that Mr. Bujeto Ablakwa apparently resigned from the committee that
Appointments
committee. So whatever his reasons were, he probably shared some of it, and he probably didn't share much of it. But I'm saying those are symptomatic of some of the challenges that face any parliament. But the important thing for Ghanaians, including NDC members, to appreciate, especially because we all recently watched the World Cup matches and Africa Cup of Nations matches that are still going on, that any coach has the right to replace the team members at different points in time based on a strategy that maybe he alone or a few in the leadership of that team are aware of. So the current leadership of NDC, who are just going to office after the elections of December last year, obviously have to review various aspects of the party's organizational structure and leadership as we approach the 2024 election. And if in their judgment, certain realignments were necessary to put forward certain individuals who will play different roles from those who were in office in the past, then that is what leadership is supposed to do. The question arises as to how do you consult or inform the affected person? And of course, here there are different statements because most of us, of course, were not part of the issue process. So whether people felt they were consulted at all, or only consulted partially, or not consulted well enough, or no matter how much consultation you had with them, they just did not accept or agree with the changes. We probably would never know because nobody, I mean, when I was being moved as a minister for communication to education, President Rollins didn't call me to find out whether I will agree to my new designation. And I think most ministers who get reshuffled don't ever get any warning about the impending reshuffle. So, and indeed, NDC people, the same NDC people who are potentially complaining about some leadership reshuffling in Parliament are the very ones also calling on President Akakpo to reshuffle his ministers. So why would we, on one hand, be asking for the President to reshuffle his ministers if we don't accept the fact that we ourselves may need to reshuffle some aspects of our leadership? So it's all part of the fact that change comes in almost all human existence, human operations, including in Parliament, and we must be ready for these changes. I'm sure most of the MPs themselves are going to be subject to elections in the next few months, and they expect that many of them, of course, would like to be elected. But the truth is that not everyone will be re-elected, and that is part of democracy. The way they also came into Parliament through elections in which some of them elbowed out their colleagues, is the same way elections will take place. Some will be re-elected and others will not. And we all have to accept the outcome. That's what democracy is about.
Yeah, change is inevitable. And that is what it reverberates with what Johnson Asiedu Nketia actually has been saying. Just hold for us, Dr. Spiogabra. Just hold for us briefly. I'll be coming back to you briefly. Just hold for us. We want to go briefly to Parliament because there's an address from there. We did hear this morning that Dr. Kasialato Forson likely would be speaking to the caucus. Let's catch snippets of what is happening in Parliament right now, and we'll be back to you.
Good morning. First, let me say that I'm deeply honored and humbled to have been chosen to lead our gallant NDC minority caucus in Ghana's parliament. I wish to use this opportunity again to thank the leadership of our great NDC party who have placed their trust and confidence in me. I'm also deeply grateful to our colleagues, the rank and file of our great party, the NDC, and the people of Ghana for their profound support and solidarity. I have held fruitful and positive conversation, in fact, frank conversation, with my senior brother, the Honorable Haruna Idrisu. I commended him for his admirable leadership and stewardship when he was granted the opportunity by our great party to lead us. As leader, it will be my duty to represent our collective goals in particular, with an unwavering dedication and, most importantly, with high integrity. I have no doubt that with the support of the entire minority caucus in Parliament, we shall succeed. May the God Almighty guide us and bless us all. But let me also add that our first responsibility is to unite the caucus, and that will be number one on the agenda. Things of this nature happens, but obviously there is the need for us to show leadership, and we will do just that. Most importantly, I will focus the next month to tackle three things. First, I wish to first of all send a message to the MPP that the people of Ghana are calling on them to downsize their government, to reflect the mood of the country. You are asking people to forgo their coupons or interest. You are asking the ordinary Ghanaian to sacrifice his payout. And so therefore, if His Excellency the President intends to reshuffle his government, let it be known that we in the NDC will not accept an attempt to increase the size of government. And if the current size of his ministers increase by one, that one person may not receive our cooperation. And in the end, we also wish to assure the people of Ghana that as part of our engagement with the Finance Committee and the Health Committee, we have agreed to do public hearing on the audit of the COVID-19 expenditure, public hearing, beginning on the 7th of February 2023. At that point, we will pay due diligence to the duties given to us as the people of Ghana. And then finally, we will also embark on a roadshow where we will galvanize the people of Ghana and educate them on the meaning of what this economic crisis is going to take us through. But to conclude on this matter, I will appeal to the rank and file of our great NDC party to keep calm. Members of Parliament are in good hands. We will work with them with due diligence. Obviously, we are not new in this house. I've been in this house for 14 years. I know the capabilities of all our colleagues. Some I met, some came to meet me. I have worked closely with most of our colleagues, and I can assure you that together we shall succeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, permit me, take my voice like that. I have not been well for the past 1 week.
The word we met the minority.
We intended it not to be in the question and answer form. This is the first time the new leader is addressing the press, and we are all witnesses to what is happening in the country. It is his duty to hold the caucus together, the party together, and the country together. So this one is just to pass through you, like I started, to call for calmness and cool heads to prevail. He has a roadmap on how to meet the various caucuses and those who call the shot in the party. And he started yesterday. He went to some individual houses, including the old leadership, including my good self. So we will not want a situation whereby it will be the normal press conference of the questions and answers. And I believe as members of the Parliamentary Press Corps, who are well versed in broadcasting Parliament, you understand it better than my good self. So if you accept my candid opinion, and that is the opinion of the minority leader, we bring this to the Thank you very much. And we love this.
So the minority leader, the new minority leader, just ended this news conference here in Parliament. Setting out the agenda for this new Parliament. He says that he's calling for unity within the NDC. He knows that since this appointment, some members within the caucus, within the NDC minority, have kicked against the appointment. They say that the party did not consult enough, and so they've called for that appointment to be withdrawn. He's also spoke about calling for a downsizing of government. He's getting to work already. He's asking government to specifically do some things. But the crux of this news conference that he has held today is to call for calm and unity within the NDC. He says that he has already met Haruna Idrisu. He's met the old leadership of Parliament. He believes that the NDC, with a united sense of purpose in Parliament, will be able to undertake this duty and the responsibility. Of course, he says that he is no new person. He's been in Parliament for the last 14 years. He knows how to get things done. He knows how to get things done in Parliament and expects that things will be done ultimately. So that has been the lowdown here in Parliament. Dr. Kieselato Forsen, he is the new minority leader. He has already gotten to work and he's setting the stage for the kind of things that are to be expected, the kind of things he's expected to be doing as leader of the caucus. And ultimately, he says that he is going to lead a reinvigorated minority and that he is grateful for the party for this opportunity that they've given him. And so what we know is that this morning, ordinarily there was expected to be a caucus meeting, a meeting that would have had both sides of the minority who are for and against the appointment to Georgia. But the new minority leader has asked that this caucus meeting be postponed to next week because he believes some house cleaning and some talks must be made and some conversations need to be had. And so that conversations are being had now. Yesterday, JoyNews broke that story to you exclusively about how 60, and the numbers keep growing, about 65 so far, have signed on to a petition asking the NDC leadership to reconsider their decision to appoint Dr. Kesilato Forson to remove Dr. Haruna Idrisu and his team from the leadership. We also know of a counter petition also having been signed by an equal sizable number, asking the party that this is the right decision that you've taken and that this is the best thing that the party can do within this moment. So that was what has been happening within the caucus. And so a caucus meeting was scheduled to happen this morning to Jojo and to discuss all the relevant matters, but that is not happening now until next week, Tuesday, when the party will reconvene, when the leadership of the party as well as the new leadership in parliament here will reconvene, talk about the issues, and Tuesday we'll meet and finalize issues before parliament returns from its break on the 7th of February. So that has been the lowdown from parliament this morning, and my name is Kweku Asante. You can take it over.
Well, Kweku Asante there from the House of Parliament. He just had that interaction, of course, the minority and Dr. Kesilato Forson, basically the new face of leadership in the minority, addressing that presser. Doc, Dr. Spiogabra, I know you're still on the line. Just tell me, what is your quick reflection on what just happened? Change is inevitable. It appears change has already come.
Yes, I would say that it's a good initiative that the new minority leader, Dr. Kesilato Forson, took to address his colleagues and, in effect, the nation and the world, because globalization and digitalization now allows anything you say to be heard worldwide. But I think his interest in establishing his leadership methods and his desire to unite the front of the minority leadership in Parliament, and to also begin by, as he said, undertaking a roadshow, I guess, to various regions of the country to address the economic and financial issues that are currently besetting the country, and also the very favorable comments he made about his predecessor and the preceding leadership. I think are all conciliatory positions that deserve commendation. I would have expected nothing less from a man of the stature and the demeanor and academic and professional training of Dr. Kesilato Forson, who quite evidently, depending on his own career plans and depending on what any NDC leadership may decide, is more than competent to replace the current Minister of Finance, who has unfortunately embarrassed the whole country and disgraced the country internationally by becoming the first minister to take the country into a state of bankruptcy, which is what the whole world now knows Ghana to be. So I think it's progress, and the fact that, yes, some minority members are not happy about the decision, but it's the same in a football match when coach changes certain players. Some people who are in the audience or spectators may not like Abedi Pellit to be asked to sit down or Sabajan not to be placed in a football match. But these are decisions that coaches have to make in the longer interest of the game, of the sport, of the team. So the chairman of the party has come out and has made it clear that the changes that have been made in the parliamentary leadership were for the best outcome of the NDC as a party. We are going towards an election. We must place our best foot forward. And apparently they have consciously identified the individuals in among the NDC leadership who can speak to the current issues affecting the whole country, that is the economy, finance, which is where our two forces.
And that point, Doc,
who is the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament. So I don't know how much better it gets.
Right.
And of course, the energy side is also being handled by Akakpo, who was the former Minister of Energy and Petroleum, etc., under the Mahama and Mills administrations. So he also comes with a lot of experience. Then Mr. Kwame Abuja, who is an architect by training and who has been a very solid performer both in Parliament and in the media on issues of infrastructure and construction and roads and so forth, is also part of that leadership. So I'm not sure, as far as qualifications and merit, how much better it could have got. But yes, people, different parts of the country will take it differently because some of them will see that their favorite individual, nobody has been sacked, nobody has been downgraded. It's just a normal change. And everyone who is a parliamentarian will continue to be a parliamentarian.
Right.
So all those who are no longer...
If you can hear me, Doc.
Can still play very important roles in Parliament and in their constituency and in the party.
Dr. Spiogabra, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir, yes.
Great. I just want to come in with two quick interjections. So the point has been made, and we've heard that there are two caucuses right now, some of them in support of what has happened, another caucus within the minority group not in support of what has happened. We'll be finding out from some of them as we move on. But I'd like to find out from you two quick things. Change has come, but the manner in which it came. Some have said that midstream like this, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, it has never happened before, at least not in this Fourth Republic, not within your party. This is the first time. Some had suggested that it should run till the end of May, and then that change in leadership could be effected. What do you make of that? And secondly, you're from the Central Region. We have now the minority leader from the Central Region. Some have played the cards, the regional card, and said this bodes well for the NDC going into election 2024, especially as that region happens to be one of the kingmaker regions. Reactions to these two?
Well, the fact that there are some members of parliament in favor of one person or one group of persons or the other in the leadership is nothing new. I mean, if you were to ask Ghanaians to vote on almost any number of national issues, you can't expect unanimity. And of course, parliamentarians, being politicians, obviously have a right to have their preferences for almost anything that is done. But the fact is that we have elected a national leadership at the party level, and all the MPs themselves were part of the decision-making at the Dosu Sports Stadium, where new NDC national leadership was elected. And we know from the rules that the industrial leaders, the party executives, the National Executive Committee have the right and the historical practice of electing and deciding on a new minority leadership. It has happened probably at least 10 times. And I would love the party itself to help all of us by just publishing, or maybe some of you in the media can do that as well, the history of the leadership of NDC minority, that everybody can read who and who has not or has been a minority or majority leader from the days of Kwabena J and also Champong and all that, to more recent times of Saboka and others who have been in the minority leadership.
Right.
The leadership has changed a number of times without anybody even being aware in some cases. So where this one is, when these will have started, the ones that have been reshuffled, if I have my facts correctly, I believe I've been in office at least 5 years, going on 6 years. And I don't think, if you compare that to the length of time previous minority or majority leaders have stayed in office, this will not be the shortest. It probably will be among the longest.
Right.
So the time, people can talk about, there's a right time for this, a right time for that. Once there's been a national election, there's a new executive that have been voted, they have a right to view all appointments and all positions within the party structure and to seek to realign the positions for the game that we are playing, which is a soccer match with an opponent.
Okay.
The opponent expects certain tactical decisions from us. We also have to expect some tactical decisions from them. And our party is taking those decisions. We are not, some of us, like myself, are not part of the current party decision-making structure, but I've been a vice chairman of the party before. I've been a communication director of the party at different times in the past. So I understand what is taking place. And people can ask for more consultation. And there are many MPs, former MPs who have said, look, but in the past, we are not consulted anyway.
Right. So no consultation was needed much.
Consultations are desirable, but are not mandatory or necessary.
Just quickly on to wrap the conversation with you on the bit about the Central Region. What does this do for the Central Region, and what does it do for the party going into election 2024?
I don't think I wasn't part of this debate, so I would be surprised if Central Region would have been a factor in the choice of Dr. Ato if he were forcing away from the Eastern Region, for example, or from the Long region or Bono region. I probably don't think it would have made a big difference in the selection. But if you ask me that, should people in Central Region be happy that they have the majority leader from their region? I'll say sure. That is natural again. And I'm sure if you look at in the past history of the majority or minority leadership, it probably has never been from the Central Region in the past 20, 30 years. So the Central Region, for now, is blessed with the leadership of the minority in Parliament. It will also not be a permanent position anyway.
Okay.
But let Mr. Forson, Dr. Forson, do the best he can. And I think all NDC people should support him, as we have supported Honor Iduso, my brother, who we all supported for many years.
Right.
And the other leaders that have come before us. So we can move together in unison.
Okay.
To remove this incompetent party that is killing the country through their very poor, thought out decisions and actions.
Doc, we're grateful for your...
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Akakpo Gabra there, former NDC flag bearer, hopeful, and he's held many ministerial portfolios within the party as well. He was sharing his thoughts on those dynamics. We'll go back to Dr. Kobi Mensah, who was having a bite right before we went. Bernice?
Doc, you've had the new leader. What runs through your mind, especially as he focuses on uniting the party and sort of convincing everybody that he's going to do a good job?
I think that it was very tactical for the new leadership to hold that particular press conference, as Dr. Gabra actually said. Obviously, having adored, the new leadership, if there was any lingering doubts, that there were going to be the party leadership was going to rescind the institution because of perhaps the the counter motion that is actually going. I mean, obviously, this adoring tells you that it's not going to happen because they have already adored the new face of the leadership. So it makes it very difficult for any counter motion to actually hold. And then, of course, you could actually, tell their readiness and the kind of, things that, Ato Forson actually talked about. Makes me think that perhaps that's even one of the reasons why there was a need for reshuffle. It sounds as if there was a misalignment between the objectives of the old leadership of Parliament and that of the political party. Because if you look at how quick, Ato had to actually sound what they are prepared to do, one, calling on the presidency or the Akufo-Addo's leadership to immediately downsize, and it looks like it's going to be his priority or the priority of the new leadership. And talking about, they going on a roadshow to educate the public on what is happening. That actually gives me a sense that perhaps it was not the preoccupation of the old leadership. And remember the NDC new leadership saying that they want to be a battle-ready leadership that is prepared to take back the administration of the country. And as a result, they are realigning the entire structures of the political party towards that particular goal. And so immediately it gives me a sense that perhaps one of the reasons why this change happened, although the leadership cannot tell us, because obviously the ramifications, but could be that the old leadership was out of sync with the objective and goals of the new leadership, and they wanted to have some kinds of people who are ready to be aligned with the current leadership objective and the party's broader objectives going forward. So it tells you that there was a little bit of conflict in terms of the parliamentary leadership, versus the party leadership.
Right. Doc, one thing worthy of mention in his write-up on Facebook and his address to us was the mention of his meeting with Haruna Idrisu. Should that be enough for supporters of Haruna Idrisu to step back and say, well, if the person we are supporting has even engaged this new leader, then we don't have a point? Should that be enough?
Well, obviously, it wouldn't be enough to them. Ideally, it should be. But you could also say that the mention was an engagement. It wasn't as though the old leader perhaps had, kind of conceded, his position. They could have, obviously, their colleagues, so they could have engagement. As to the output of the engagement, I hope it was positive because, we didn't actually get a full detail. I mean, we were told that there had been a fruitful engagement. Now, you wouldn't expect him to say anything different, from a fruitful engagement. Now, we're waiting to see whether there will be some kind of communication coming from, Honorable Haruna's.
Should that happen?
Owner.
Should he do that?
I'm sure that he wouldn't do that because, having done this particular outdooring of the leadership, if he had to actually come out with a counter, maybe he can actually do that with maybe a reinforcement of what has happened. But if he should come out with a counter, that's going to be very dicey.
I'm talking about a reinforcement because like we're seeing, there are protests, there are people he supports who are willing to go all out. Should we hear him speak directly?
I think so. I think a reinforcement from him would add to his stellar leadership, and then would help calm situations. I mean, I've called for the party to sort of institute a crisis in a committee to ensure that they could meet, the various, parties, not only those who are directly involved, like the Honorable Haruna, for example, but also the constituents, all right? And
finally, Doc, so is that meeting necessary, that engagements that these MPs are hoping to have with the leadership of their party, is it necessary?
Perhaps so, because obviously they would have their own internal issues that we are not privy to. And so the indication that Arthur gave that, yes, they're likely to, your reporter gave that they're likely to have an engagement in the next week. I think it would be necessary for them, for their own internal workings, which we're not actually privy to what is happening. But of course, it is necessary, any engagement, to make sure that cool heads will prevail. It's a fantastic one.
Dr. Kobi-Mensah, maybe just from my end, finally, before we let go of you, I'd like to find out, should this be the nail in the coffin? Should this bring some finality to all of this? And what would you propose? You've spoken about what the minority leader, the former minority leader, should or shouldn't be doing. What do you think in this instance? Should this close the matter? And if he came back, what would that imply? Just briefly.
You mean this particular presser?
Yes, that exactly.
Well, I think it should actually give some confidence to the entire party machinery that indeed there's a new leadership that is ready to actually take the fight to the government.
Thank you, Dr. Kobi-Mensah, for joining the conversation. We'll see how it goes from the academic standpoint. But also joining the conversation, Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe. Thank you for joining the conversation, Ernest.
Good morning to your listeners.
We're really grateful that you could make the time to speak to us. Having followed everything, I don't know whether you've been watching or you've followed what has been happening on the show. We've heard from Dr. Kasielato Forson, your minority leader, and there's been a whole lot of a storm about the replacement of leadership. What is your understanding of what has happened? What's your take on it?
Well, thank you very much. My simple understanding is we have a new leadership which was proposed, or let me say, appointed by the party hierarchy. And then that is how it has been, so we have to just go ahead. The modus operandi may not be right. We may be crying for proper engagement, etc. But the constitution of the party is not on the side of we those who are talking of broader consultation, etc. What I just remembered, that was 2001, when the party decided to maintain the outgoing leadership. They came to Parliament, and then they met all of us. I was chosen to be the electoral commissioner. We consulted widely, collating results from all the 10 regional caucuses in favor of the outgoing, or let me say at that time, the current executives, which are submitted to the party head office. So we were just expecting that the party would have done same by coming to us to tell us not to hear this information or this news in the public domain or in the media. And so, by and large, at least we are coming to the tail end of it. We just see how everything unfolds.
So you're basically saying that, just like most of us, the first snippets of information you got about this were from out there. You didn't hear from your own party. That's what you're saying.
Exactly so. We just heard it in the news, and when some of us heard it, we had to call the leadership to ask what was going on, and most of them were also saying the same thing, that they just heard it in the news. But the party is also saying that they have done some intensive consultation. Probably that consultation might have not come to the attention of the caucus because we are also on recess, actually. And so the only lacuna there is that the information got to the media before even the caucus getting the win of it. I think that is the only problem we are facing at this point in time.
So communication gaps obviously happening. And just to clarify, what you're saying is you are in full support of what has happened, but the processes involved, that is what you're
Exactly so, because all the individuals involved,
right.
Honorable Atoforsin, a fantastic guy, Honorable Amabua, same, Honorable Abuja, I mean, they are all capable of handling the caucus. But we are just worried about the modus operandi of the headquarters, I mean, which we can understand because, as I said earlier, the constitution of the party is not on our side. And this is not only peculiar to NDC, it goes to the other party too. They also face similar situation in the past. And so the lacuna is just the communication gap, which was not properly done well, probably because we are still on a recess.
Let me find out from you, since you've been courteous enough to join us. There was a list circulating yesterday, a list that we took note of, which suggested that a number of MPs, about 70 of you from the minority end, had decided, to engage further, that you were sticking by the old leadership, and your name was on that list. Can you confirm that you signed, up for that petition?
Well, when you are signing a petition, you have to append your signature. And so, for the past few years I've been in Parliament, anytime there's a petition coming from the minority into the public domain, you see a signed document. You might have seen my name on a list. That is just a list. The petition, that is what we have to be working with as we speak now. And I'm not sure as we speak now there's any petition presented to the party or signed by or completed by any individual yet. And so what is in the public domain. I can take it as a false publication because, I mean, the media is also trying to be the first to report, so they are not getting the accurate, information to report on. Some say 48, some say 77, some say 60, some say... But as you speak, the list that is in the public domain has been even, modified to another number in another platform, on another platform. And so I can just treat that list for now as just misinformation in the public domain.
So just
when
just
the
to clarify,
actual petition comes out, you see a signed document.
Does that mean there's a petition in the works?
Well, that is what we are all hearing in the public domain. And so if you see a signed document, that means that is the petition. But what you are seeing now is just a list that is in circulation.
So in other words, you did not give any such permission, you did not have any such interactions with any members of parliament?
I might have had that interaction with a lot of members of parliament, also making my argument for or against whatever it is. If that might have been the resultant effect of names being compiled, we are all not saying we have not made or lamented on the matter. But I am saying that that is not a petition to be sent to national or to the Adabraka or to anybody. So it's just a list that is in the public domain.
But, sorry to interject, but Mr. Nogbe, why do you think that your name will be included in such a list? Was there any discussion? Were you part of any caucus that met for any reason?
I think you should understand my point of view. What are you using the list for? Is it a petition or is it a list you are talking about? We are talking about petition. We are not talking about list in public domain. And so when your name is in the public domain or is on any list, it's just a list. And you should be talking about petitioning the Adabraka office, not just a list in the public domain.
But if you say it's just a list,
that will not result to anything.
Mr. Nogbe, if you say it's just a list, what if I told you that this list emanated from a colleague member of parliament of yours? What would you say to that?
Pardon me, can I hear you well?
You say it's just a list, it's not a petition, it doesn't have your signatures. But what if I told you that this list, this supposed list, emanated from one of your members of parliament, your colleagues in parliament? What would you say to that?
But that is your source. And so whether your source is authentic is up to you to verify. It is your source in parliament, yes? I may even give you that list, whether you have to verify whether it's an authentic list or not.
Mr. Nogbe,
so
have
I
you
don't have
signed?
problem whether it is emanating from parliament or any other place. What I'm just saying is what I have said.
Okay, but have you signed on to any petition? It may not be what we've seen on social media.
I have not signed any petition as I speak with you. I have not signed any petition yet as I speak with you. I may or I may not, but as we speak now, I have not signed any petition yet.
Right. Thank you for your time this morning. Ernest Nobe is MP for Ashaba. And we come to another angle of our conversation where we speak to Dr. Sumaila Asa, development expert and senior lecturer, CK Tedham University of Technology. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. We saw what happened after yesterday's fallout discussions, the near violence, burning of tires and all that. What are your quick thoughts on what has happened since this announcement was made?
Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners. It's rather unfortunate that a Democratic Party like NDC will be getting into these troubles. But, I mean, sometimes some of these things happen, but it's how they're able to manage it that will determine how mature the party is. But talking about the changes in Parliament, I think it is within the NDC constitution that at any point in time, leadership of Parliament can be changed. It's rather unfortunate that, or maybe this did not happen after 4 years of Haruna and then Mutaka. Then they continued to this time period, and then the party thinks that there's a need for them to change. I don't have any problem with these changes. And I don't think I subscribe to people burning ties and then demonstrating. At any point in time, somebody can become a leader, and also those who have become leaders also have constituencies, and then there are people who also love them, the same way like the constituency of Tamale South and Asawasi. So I don't think what they are doing in Asawasi and Kumasi in general, and then Tamale is right, and then should not be encouraged by anybody. They should probably desist from that and then let the party structures take the control of what is happening. I think, yes, to me, it could have been done better. The consultation, as somebody who believes in stakeholder consultation, was not enough. It was not done properly. I think they can revisit that process and then amend and then probably look at it possibly. But changing the decision might be quite expensive for the party.
What do you mean when you say quite expensive?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, they have made, written to Parliament that these are the new leadership or that they are proposing, or the party is proposing. And I think it has gone so far. People have celebrated, as people have also demonstrated. But what will that mean? That the party do not have the capacity to control tension when they arise like they are happening now. It will mean that the current leadership are sort of a capacity to think for themselves. And
does this move by the leadership of the party, does it add credit to its democratic gains as a party, or it takes away from it, considering the concerns about lack of consultation and all that?
Yeah, to a large extent, that the party falls short when it comes to democratic processes, because at least the caucus in Parliament needed to have been consulted, and then other stakeholders. But consultation is a process, and sometimes we have different forms of consultation. Sometimes you may decide to do wider consultation, or you do limited consultation. All depends on the strategy that you want to adapt.
The defense, sorry to interject, but the defense of the leadership of the party and even former executives, like we heard from Dr. Akakpo today, is that, well, what they've done is not against what their books say. So there's nothing illegal per se, because they are going by the practice and what the books prescribe. Would you say, based on what we've seen now, they should begin to look at how some of these decisions are taken? Should this lead to reforms?
Yes, definitely, because one, it could be illegal, but not right in the context of the feelings of others, because the party is not one person's party. It is a collective interest of people and different groups of people in this particular case. So yes, legally, the party constitution doesn't prescribe that you should go through all these long processes of getting everybody to subscribe to your decision. But as democratic processes also demands that you get involved in the process of decision making. Yes, we can't run away from the fact that the Asawasi or Kumasi area, the party has a very strong hold there, and Tamale as well. So these people also have a stake in the party, and therefore their views need to be consulted. Yes, I think what probably did not also go right was how the old leaders communicated that to their constituents. Because I am informed that they were consulted before the letter was sent to Parliament. So I guess maybe they should have been at the forefront of talking to their constituents. That yes, I've been consulted, I've been talked to, and therefore these changes have been made. I don't know why that was not done. And then in Kumasi, we didn't see Mutaka also exhibiting that kind of. I doubt whether they were not informed before the letter was sent to Parliament. And according to Asiri Ketia, the General has made it very clear that they were consulted. So at that point, I also feel that they could have also done better to quell down this tension at their constituency level, so that at least, yes, their constituents will not be happy, but the action presupposed that maybe they ignited it, and that was not good for their behavior as well.
I don't know if you listened to Dr. Kasiela Tufosin's address just a few minutes ago. He's been calling for unity. He's been talking about what the minority caucus's focus is going to be. He spoke about the president downsizing his government, sending a strong signal about what his leadership is going to look like. Moving forward, what should be done? Because, and we've been having these discussions since the announcement made pictorially. We're just imagining how or where Haruna Idrisu will fit in the scheme of things in Parliament, what kind of role he will be given if there is any available for him. But for you, what should the party do to ensure that there's real progress after this and there's no deepening of the cracks and factions that have been created?
Yeah, I think the first thing is what Tufosin has done, and I think it's a good direction. But I think that they need to really talk, because as we speak now, as I said, the party leadership claim they have consulted, or they have probably met with Aruna and then Mutaka before announcing. Therefore means that they agreed, or they are happy, or if not happy per se, but they have some level of agreement to the party decision to change them as leaders of the House. So they should take it from that maturity to their constituents, and also to other members of parliament who are rejecting the new leadership appointment. So at the end of the day, there should be that consensus, because one, it is clear that the party wants to wrestle power from the NPP in 2024, and these are part of the strategies that have been adapted for changing the funds and then the battle fund. That should be convincing to everybody in the party, at the parliamentary level. Because in any case, Atufoshin is not the one who is going to talk all about the economy. Because when we're talking about economy, we're also talking about different facets of the economy. We're talking about the political economy, which is also now an issue for discussion in our political dispensation. So we also have people who have those backgrounds. Haruna definitely is not naive in economics, because he has led ministries that dealt with economic issues. He had been the Minister for Trade before, so he's not green in economics to be able to lead a ministry like trade. So to a large extent, he has qualities that needs to be tapped into the leadership role of Parliament as they have now. I've always said this. I remember some of these things in the early days back in 2008, 2009, when I used to work closely with Parliament at the Center for Public Interest Law as the parliamentary relation officer. And these are some of the things that we used to really talk to political parties, and particularly the caucuses in Parliament.
Right.
You need to have that understanding that the agenda of Parliament is how you are able to convince the populace. For instance, if there is any argument on the economy, it is not one person who's all the time being on the platform talking about economy that makes Ghanaians believe that you have economic muscles to rascal the country.
Right.
You need to have the team, and then this team needs different group of people with different backgrounds. And Haruna definitely has qualities that need to be tapped in. The person needs to understand that, and then let's see how best they are able to control this tension, and then get back to their asses, and then get their way out towards 2024.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Dr. Asa is a development expert and senior lecturer, CK Tedham, University of Technology and Applied Sciences. And this morning, we've been talking about the fallout of the NDC's reshuffle in Parliament, hearing from different persons. We heard from Dr. Akakpo Gabra, who has been an executive of the party before, former flag bearer hopeful. We've also been hearing from Ernest Nogbe, who is an MP for Ashaman. And also we've been hearing from Dr. Kobi Mensah, who is a political marketer at the University of Ghana Business School. Apologies, we couldn't bring you that interaction with Mutawakilu and Sami Obeng with Parliamentary Network Africa. We had to go to Parliament to bring you that live feed where Dr. Kazi Alatoforson addressed us, Benjamin. Abubedu Lansah, and this is the AM show. Thank you so much for staying with us. This morning, we've been joined by the PRO of the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwarteng. There's a lot of issues to discuss in the sector, but let's start off with what may be the big one. 8 lives lost on the Volta Lake. There have been concerns about why these young pupils didn't have life jackets. But then again, there's the bigger question about why do they have to cross a lake to access education? Can't we give them the education on their islands? Why is it so difficult to do this? Well, Kwesi Kwarteng is here to give us those answers. Mr. Kwarteng, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bernice. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not too fine. I mean, we've lost our students. It's a very sad situation. Nobody must go through this, especially in our attempt to secure education, where it happens to be a basic right. Something which is provided for in our constitution that is supposed to be that basic, that we do not have to record such an incident.
What have you learned from your preliminary investigations into the matter. What exactly happened? We are told that there are supposed to be life jackets available for these children in hard-to-reach areas if they have to cross water bodies to school. What are you learning from this particular incident?
I mean, first of all, let me express on behalf of the Ministry of Education our condolences to the family and to the entire Bono East region.
Bono region.
Yeah. Of course, investigation is ongoing, but I mean, the prelims that we have is that if we look at the district, there's about 81 schools within the district. Within these 81 schools, I think about 21 of them are junior high schools, so the remaining are the primary schools that, I mean, this case really attend. So they find themselves in those islands, I mean, within the district. And within the island, about 10 of the schools are there. But I think the challenge is that the particular town that these kids are from, we don't have a school there. Okay. Of course, if we look at GES, their structure in putting out the school, usually they check the population of the community and then sometimes the adjoining communities to see if they can feed the school in terms one is established. I think the reports that we have, the larger challenge has to do with the fact that the surrounding schools, mostly when you post teachers there, a lot of them are unable to take their appointments because a lot of them prefer to stay in the bigger towns.
Yeah, because of the conditions in the smaller communities. Exactly. It's difficult to live there. Yeah, difficult to teach there.
Yes, it's true, and I agree with you. Some of them have to commute about 2 hours to the places, especially before they reach these 10 schools within the island. And so you have teachers being posted there most times after a year or two. Some of them even vacate their posts, which is a very difficult challenge. So, unfortunately, just last 2 days, this case, in an attempt to seek education, it's difficult for me.
It's a really difficult subject to discuss. Also because when you see the picture of how these kids are lined up, and you ask yourself, what did they want? An education. Yeah, why didn't they have life jackets on the boat?
I like we indicated, there's just a preliminary investigations. I'm sure the full report will address all those concerns. But of course, the details that it highlights is that they were indeed going to school. It confirms that. It also confirms that there were about 20 of them who were in the boat. So it was even a philanthropist who felt that he wanted to just help. I mean, somebody who was just on the river wanted to just help with his boat. And unfortunately, we had that incident. Like I indicated, it's something that should not happen to any child. Unfortunately, it's happened. I mean, the first comment is to express our condolences to them. The Ghana Education Service, the regional and the district level, together with the political leadership there, are in touch with the community and the parents in trying to arrive at the bottom of whatever has happened, and of course, also sympathize with them. I believe that the full report will highlight, I mean, what really happened, and of course, what we ought to do. But generally, I mean, using the common sense approach, there ought to be life jackets for them. But of course, I mean, even if you look at the preliminary reports that came in, one of the recommendations is that GES is exploring if it could even cite schools, because now you realize that even though the community is about 850, there is a possibility that some of the adjoining communities could also feed the school if one is established. So
we hope that this will not be an isolated
incident,
case that you're going to treat, but you're going to use the opportunity to do a quick survey of all schools that find themselves on, or do a quick assessment of island communities and whether you have schools there and how we can mitigate some of these disturbing things. But let's move on to the next matter, which has to do with children having furniture to study on. Our features editor, Jojo Kobna, has produced 2 fantastic pieces so far on Ghana's Schools of Shame, where we highlight the conditions in the classrooms There are no chairs, no tables. These children have to sit on the bare floor. Some of them have to lie on their bellies. Some of them have to bring their own chairs. Some of them have to squat. And you can imagine if you have 5 or 6 lessons every day and you have to squat to do that, how long can a child endure such, postures? And this government was one that said it was going to tackle this. In fact, we were very careful to highlight what Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said in 2016 before the NPP won the elections to do his first term in office. Your minister speaks on a platform and wants to address this documentary that has been produced by JoyNews. And here's what he says. He is ashamed about Ghana's schools of shame. One would have thought that he was ashamed about the situation and was then going to proceed to tell us what is being done about it. But no, he didn't do that. He rather said or questioned why we chose to tell the story of these kids. And many of you have seen the videos. You've seen these children for yourself, and I'm sure you're going to be seeing it on your screen once again. And what they have to endure every day. Mr. Kwarteng, your minister is asking us why we decided to tell the story of these vulnerable children, because he believes that he is making strides in the education sector.
You need to calm down.
No, I'm okay.
You need to calm down. We are here to address the issue.
Of course, but I need to explain so that the people understand what's happening.
I've never seen you so a bit aggressive like this.
No, it's troubling. It's very troubling. And please, my director would show the videos for you so that you can see. So just watch this. Just watch this. But before then, listen to the minister and then watch what we showed and make your own deductions. Then I'll take the reaction from Kwesi Kwarteng.
At the Ministry of Education, we believe that the better days of our nation, Ghana, is ahead of us and not behind us. Recently, I saw some TV programming. They were talking about Ghana's school of shame. And I was ashamed. Because of all the great things happening in the country, we want to focus on the negative and get the world to know that there are negative things in Ghana. Can you look straight in the eye of these children and tell me they are coming from schools of shame? They are coming from schools of shame. These young men and women has a fierce determination and is palpable when you get close to them. They want to change the face of this country. What we couldn't do, they are going to do it. All that we need to do is to let them know that yes, there are challenges in the country, but we should shine a spotlight on these great things that we are doing. And if we can take a cue, we should rather do a program that highlights these young men and women and tell the world that Ghana is moving in spite of the challenges.
So, Mr. Minister, respectfully, if you care to know, the program you were speaking at, G-Step, is one that is supported by JoyNews. We do tell the stories of great strides happening in our education sector. And if you're someone who watches JoyNews, you know that when there are good stories to tell, we tell them. And Mr. Minister, respectfully, you cannot tell us that we should not tell the stories of these children because there are good things happening.
I mean, are you fighting the minister?
I cannot fight the minister.
I'm not sure. I mean,
so, Mr. Kwarteng, look at these children. I want you to look on the screen.
No,
and see what is happening.
We've done
is this a school of fame?
No, we've done this.
Is this a school of fame?
No, I think you after showing, I'm sure you give me the opportunity to address.
You can speak. We are not playing the stories. We're just showing the pictures, so you can speak.
Okay, verify. I think I have always held the view that when you take the text out of the context, you'll be missing the essence of the conversation. Ultimately, why are you showing this video? You are showing this video, of course, to draw leadership attention, so that some way, somehow, there has to be some level of intervention, and then the challenge or the situation is addressed. I mean, this is not the first time you are showing this video. I have even had the opportunity to respond to it in a number of times. I believe that to be fair to what the minister said, we don't have to take him out of context. And what is the context? The context is that the minister is essentially establishing a principle. The principle is that, well, as a country, I mean, if you look at the education sector, just like any other sector, we may not be at where we want to go, but definitely we are not at where we used to be. Essentially, that's what the minister is saying.
Shouldn't the minister then have taken the opportunity, because he clearly saw this video before going for that G-Step program, if he wanted to address this matter, shouldn't he have taken the opportunity, for example, to give us an update on what has been done so far since this government took over in addressing this, in governing this country? Shouldn't he have taken the opportunity to tell us what the plan is to solve the children's problem, instead of questioning why we chose to tell the story?
I'm not sure it's about questioning why you chose to solve
No,
this.
did you hear him, Chrissy?
No, but
he said because instead of highlighting the good things that are coming, we
Bernice,
chose to highlight
this is the only first
wrong
time
things
you
that are
brought me
happening
here and you asked me questions, but for the first time you allow me to speak. I've never seen that from you. That's why I initially said you should kindly calm down.
I'm okay.
This is the only first time. In most of your interviews,
these are children.
Bernice, in most of your interviews, you ask
I'll allow you to answer the question.
This is the only first time. I'm surprised.
Don't be surprised.
It looks like you've already formed a position.
No. I can't form a position.
So allow me to answer.
Because your minister directly attacked us for doing the story.
No.
So I'm asking you,
surprised.
shouldn't he have taken the opportunity to tell us then what has been done and what is left to be done and how to achieve that?
I am surprised the interpretation you put on what the minister said from the Ministry of Education. It was shocking against the backdrop that even yesterday when we wanted to opportunity to at least speak into your program and then clear the misunderstanding. Unfortunately, we were not even given the opportunity.
Which program was that?
I mean, yesterday News 90 was played. Even this morning, yesterday, I personally called about 4 of your producers with the hope of getting an opportunity to also at least.
But it's not why you're here this morning.
Explain. Yes, I mean, but we're having the opportunity. But I am building a case, so we have to take it from one step before we get to the other. But for me, what is most crucial is the principle that the minister has highlighted. The principle is that whether there are challenges or not, we as a country must also at least be proud of the little successes that we've chalked as a country. And what the minister is essentially saying that yes, the challenges are there. Indeed, if you want to look at the challenges within the education sector, we have always insisted. And this one is not even necessarily an isolated case because, I mean, it is an undeniable fact that if you look at this country, we have about 5,000 schools under trees. I have explained the context of the schools under trees that a lot of times you may have, let's say, philanthropist and NGO, which goes into a community, tries to have engagement with the community. Later, it then metamorphosizes or escalates into a school. GES goes in en masse, then transforms such a school.
Chrissy, you're not answering my question.
No, I am landing.
Should he not have taken this opportunity instead of going on the tangent he did?
When you ask a question, Bernice, you allow me to answer. When I finish and my answer is not satisfactory, then you can then draw my attention.
You have made the point you're
making.
The point.
No. What I was saying in a response to your question, the point that I want to emphasize is that the minister has already been championing the interventions that he has been undertaking when it comes to basic education, especially when it comes to infrastructure. Again, the minister have also admitted the challenges within the education sector. A lot of these challenges, I mean, it's not like it was born just yesterday or last 2 years ago. It's been systemic. It's been with us most of them even predates back before independence. Today, we are still having similar challenges. What the minister is saying that yes, those challenges are there. Challenges in relation to access, challenges in relation to quality, challenges in relation to education having relevance or not socio-economic transformation. But beyond these challenges, as a country, there have been some milestones that we've been able to achieve.
And haven't we told those stories?
No, but essentially that's what the minister is saying, that when we are making a presentation about a certain story, it has to be balance, so that we do not just look into our faces and tell ourselves that as a country we failed. We've not failed as how maybe the impression is made to look. The minister is essentially saying that,
do you want us to listen to the minister again? It's a very short
No, I think his point was clear. That's why I said that the minister even admitted that there were some level of challenges. And indeed, the education system is shrouded with challenges.
Is this a school of fame or shame?
No. So again, it answers yesterday what your people tried to do, and again the misunderstanding they had and the interpretation they placed on the minister's point that he made. The minister yesterday said that yes, indeed there are school of shame, but you can't look into those guys. It was your own program. Those who have been able to manufacture and create innovative, equipment, and look into their face and also tell them that they are coming from a school of shame.
But that's not what we've done. You're putting a spin to the thing. No. Let's listen to the minister again, just for about 40 seconds.
You also don't get my explanation.
Let's listen to the minister again, and then we'll come back. We need to listen to the minister again. Let's listen to the minister again.
At the Ministry of Education, we believe that the better days of our nation, Ghana, is ahead of us and not behind us. Recently, I saw some TV programming. They were talking about Ghana's school of shame. And I was ashamed. Because of all the great things happening in the country, we want to focus on the negative and get the world to know that there are negative things in Ghana. Can you look straight in the eye of these children and tell me they are coming from schools of shame? They are coming from schools of fame. They're going to change the story of Ghana. These young men and women has a fierce determination and is palpable when you get close to them. They want to change the face of this country. What we couldn't do, they are going to do it. All that we need to do is to let them know that yes, there are challenges in the country, but we should shine a spotlight on these great things that we are doing. And if we can take a cue, we should rather do a program that highlights these young men and women and tell the world that Ghana is moving in spite of the challenges.
Saying there was not referring to the children in our feature, but the children who were sitting in front of him.
No, the minister essentially referred to two categories of people.
Okay.
That's why.
But does the minister know?
That's why he even made references that we couldn't tell our stories, but these are guys who are coming to do what we couldn't do as a
Does
people.
the minister know that G-Step is sponsored by JoyNews?
Obviously.
Does the minister know? Does the minister know that on this platform here on JoyNews, we focus on young people who are innovators,
yes,
young people who are doing great things?
Yes.
He knows.
Obviously.
But so why was he talking as though all we do here, just because we decided to tell the specific story of children in Pandai, the minister is sounding as though we've never said any good story. Anyway, you've made your response. Let's move on to other matters. I'll leave it for you. Do you have anything more to say? Because I want to leave it. I want to leave it to the Ghanaian audience to make the deductions.
I feel that in as much as you are passionate about this whole point, we should not miss the thrust of the point that the minister was making. You get a minister who is very passionate about education, who have started reforming our education sector in terms of infrastructure, everything. There has been some magnificent interventions.
Haven't we told those stories?
No, I am not saying that we have not told those stories. But the minister was essentially saying that as a country, regardless of our challenges, we should be proud of ourselves, also the many successes that we've achieved. Today, we are talking about 21st century STEM. Ordinarily, I was expecting that would have been the first story. But
first story for who?
I mean, for this discussion. Of course, I don't determine what we do. But unfortunately,
you're following your minister.
No, I am not following
you want to make editorial decisions for us.
No, if I follow my minister and is to the right direction, I'm not sure there's anything wrong with it.
All right, Chrissy.
Minister for Education, I'm rapping. Minister for Education essentially is making one point.
Okay.
And the principle is that, yes, there are challenges. Those challenges are being addressed head on. But equally, when there is an opportunity for us to escalate, for the whole world to know the significant successes that we've took as a country, I'm not sure we should renege on that. And that is the focus and the thrust of his point. It was not in any way to make any organization look bad. In any event, when you started your story of shame thing, of course, I was invited to respond to it. Okay. The Minister for Education has instructed the FPMU gentleman, Mr. Ni, to at least get to the school and provide some solutions to it. So yes, you, even as media, has been helping us to address some of the challenges within the education space. Just that we want to let everybody understand that when we try to paint a picture that everything is unwell, It is not necessarily so. There are also some.
That picture?
I mean, I leave it for listeners to, especially in a time where, I mean, you have situations where media is almost being weaponized against politically individuals, and
it's as though politicians choose what they want to see.
Not really.
Because, like I've reiterated it. Kwesi, let's move on. There are other matters to discuss.
Because to misconstrue what the minister said for us in the Ministry of Education was so unfair.
Who misconstrued him?
If you listen to what he said, well, there was a point where he even admitted that yes, as a country there are challenges, but yes, though you want to vary what he said and then place a different interpretation on it.
You know what? You're here to do your job. I'm here to do mine. So the Ghanaian.
So my job is to what?
The Ghanaian people will make the judgment themselves. There is the other issue of the cancellation of some papers in the just ended BEC. I have always wondered why we are so.
You said there is?
The cancellation of results in BEC.
Okay.
I have always wondered. Kwesi, you're interesting. I have always wondered why there's so much focus and attention on the students who are said to have misconducted themselves and not on those who help in facilitating that. Because to the best of my knowledge, when we say that children came into the examination hall with foreign material, these children are searched before they get there, right?
Bernice, I mean, this is your logic. Are you suggesting that?
No. I'm just asking a question.
Bernice, are you suggesting that?
If
okay, you land.
There is somebody who is supposed to search the children and ensure that they're not found with any foreign material, are we also ensuring that they're doing their jobs well?
So the fact that
I have witnessed somebody walking into an examination room and asking, who is so and so, and hands over a phone to the person. I have seen invigilators who themselves help students. And that's why I'm asking you, what is being done also to ensure that those people are really punished and examples set of them?
Yeah, I get where you are coming from. But I mean, I'm not sure the logic is also that because the police fail to prevent the commission of a crime, when somebody commits a crime, that person should not face the law.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's not the logic. Okay,
but that's
fair.
not what I'm saying.
That's fair because I mean, how you started. That's how.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
that
the focus has always been on the kids, but not the old people or the invigilators who sometimes facilitate their activities of more practice.
I don't speak for WAEC, but of course, largely because we work with them and the students are students, there is some level of responsibility and some level of action when we have to take in regards to these matters. Of course, our view is that in any arrangement, particularly in examination where you have human interface, obviously there are some of these more practices, issues of leakages and other things that you may hear. And of course, there are some that genuinely your responses or your interventions may not be able to resolve them. For instance, let me bring it to a very broader perspective. We have laws in this country, we have the police, we have the army, we have the security agencies, there is commission of crime. But how you measure our commitment in addressing some of these challenges is the interventions that we brought through, again, the Minister for Education. The minister that you just disagreed with and passionately disagreed with. So what we have done in order to curb some of these things is the introduction of serialization. Serialization or serializing the questions that students are supposed to write. And so if you recall, in last year's BEC, you never heard any instance of leakage. But of course, there could also be more practice. More practices, for instance, when a student have succeeded in taking a phone in. You are unable to say that the fact that such student was unnoticed, such students might not be, go through, the proper sanctions. So yes, for us as the Ministry of Education, we've brought some level of interventions with regards to serializing questions to make sure that we sanitize the examination space. But of course, in any human interface, you may get issues of more practice, you may get issues of leakages, and when it happens, WAEC has its own modus and mechanisms of addressing it.
So what happens?
But ultimately, we want to bring a system where that system will curb this thing once and for all. And it starts with serialization. At some point, the Minister for Education has introduced the conversation about the e-testing. And that is all avenues and opportunities that we are also exploring to make sure that we're able to deal with some of these challenges. But of course, there has been instances of where WAEC has prosecuted officials and some individuals that has been, because if you look at the whole chain.
It's a chain, yes.
The chain is not necessarily about WAEC. WAEC also even relies on external sources. Sometimes relies on the Ghana Education Service staff, relies on police. There is a bit of transportation arrangement, logistics involved, stores keeping and other things. At every level, there could be a compromise. But of course, when you introduce system, for instance, this realization, you have about 10 different sets of questions. So you enter the exams hall, an examination which is supposed to be answered by, let's say, 100 students. In that hall, you have about 10 different sets of questions. In that case, if you were a student, I mean, there will not even be any incentive or motivation to say that you are going to chase for lead questions or whatever, because at the end, the questions that you might get might not necessarily be what probably you meet in the exams hall. So these are all some of the innovative responses that you put to address some of these things ultimately. But of course, you may still have issues of more practice, which may not necessarily be a leakage. More practice, you are not supposed to enter with a phone. You are not supposed to copy somebody's work. I mean, how do you prevent somebody necessarily from not copying somebody's work, especially if the person just tends? Definitely the person has committed an offense, and the rules that
by
is
just
applicable.
turning?
No, I'm just hypothetically making an assumption. For instance, you are not supposed to tend to look at somebody's work. If you do that and you are caught, WAEC may want to investigate that you're breaking their examination rules. And in that case, a little can be done to save you, especially from the Ministry of Education.
Okay. So these 73 candidates who've had their entire results cancelled, what is the opportunity for them, if any exists, to reset the BEC, or do they have an opportunity to appeal and say, I didn't cheat, and want to prove their innocence? Because what I know is that these investigations are not done necessarily by involving the students or the pupils.
It may not necessarily be so, because if we look at WAEC rules, of course, I believe WAEC may be able to give us the extensive details. But if you look at WAEC rules, a lot of times when students are found culpable of breaching the rules of engagement when it comes to the examination, well, mostly they are supposed to write their statement, with more or less a right to fair hearing.
Right.
And sometimes even they attach, if for instance there is a foreign material as an evidence to support whatever statement that they've written. So most of the times the decisions is based there. It's not necessarily as though it's a unilateral decision, because I mean there is a ruling on it, it's a ruling in WAEC, where the court was very clear that before you are supposed to punish somebody for such an offense, such person must be heard. So that arrangement exists for such.
Right. Chrissy, we've had you here a couple of times. On one of those occasions, we discussed how the new system allows for students to apply for which schools they would like to be placed to. But there are some new guidelines and information on STEM schools, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's there to let us know?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of all the plans by the Ministry of Education, led by Dr. Yaseduchum, to realign our education, especially to have some sort of positive output with regards to transforming our socio-economic or achieving the socio-economic transformation. Largely, if you look at this 21st century, it's not necessarily, education is not necessarily centered on reading and writing or memorization. I mean, if you recall, we sat on this platform and applauded the minister for...
And that's why you should, and that's why you shouldn't be upset if we disagree with it.
We're not upset. We're only saying, we're only drawing Ghanaians' attention to the fact that there are also, I mean, good interventions that
which we tell.
Well,
Okay.
I've never disputed that.
Right.
Yes, that it depends on where your priority is. But anyway, Bernice. So, Bernice, we are on TV.
Okay, so yes, about the STEM education and how young people can access it.
What the Minister for Education has introduced is that in this era of the 21st industrial revolution, we as a nation cannot memorize ourselves out of poverty. Because if you look at education, we've always held that it's pivoted on three main angles. We look at access, quality, and then of course relevance. Relevance in the terms that they're having an impact on our socio-economic transformation. So of course, I mean, the quality component has always been the center and the pivot of all the variables. And so you cannot be educating students who may not necessarily be problem solvers, who are not critical thinkers, who are not assertive, and cannot use the education to address socioeconomic challenges or the societal challenges. So in view of that, all over the world, the model that everybody is adapting is a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, where you train students to be critical thinkers, to be assertive, to be problem solvers. So we have introduced the STEM schools, and not necessarily at the SHS level, but remember that the STEM academies from the basic level will be feeding the STEM schools. And so at the STEM school, we've opened opportunity for career pathways in aviation, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D imaging, 3D engineering, so that we give students an opportunity at least to explore opportunities within the STEM space, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So that is a new direction that we are moving. And so this time around, the 21st century schools, which are freshly, newly built senior high school that your people have not yet highlighted. You have not yet highlighted the STEM schools.
Who said we haven't highlighted?
I've not seen it, especially with the...
You see, don't let us go this way, because I can pull out many
You've highlighted the Abobosu. We've not seen it. And the energy... Are
you saying, look...
The energy you put in...
No. Don't do this. This platform has many programs. We have myjoyonline.com, we have radio.
We are yet to see many programs. Running a documentary on Schools of Fame, where Abobosu will come in.
But you don't choose
We don't choose for you. No, we can't do that. We are not in... No, we are not in editorials.
But you see,
just that we can draw the nation's attention through your platform, that there are also good things that has been done, just like the minister did.
Which we share. And Kwesi, I didn't want to do this, and I'm not one to do this, but I think that once you've brought this in again, let me just address this. So we have received some comments. Some of you are saying, so this is from Chris Frimpong. He says, so where is the line from what the minister said? I think you guys have an agenda against the education minister. Chris, did we have an agenda against the education minister when we told the story of how he's sponsoring his constituents? Did we have an agenda against him? Sometimes some of these things, you know, let's just be fair to ourselves as a people, okay? And Felix says, Minister is perfectly right, encourage the children rather than discouraging them. So by telling the government to give them chairs, we discourage them. Anyway, that's left to you, Ellen. So quickly,
Minister, you are responding to them more than me.
Quickly in wrapping up,
No, in wrapping up, we've opened opportunity for selection. That is prospective SHS students, those whose BEC results just came in. Anybody who want to take advantage of the STEM schools can just log on www.stem-ssp.com.gh. There are lists of schools, freshly, newly built SHS, a lot of them with 12 science laboratories, ultramodern, very standard ones, and then explore opportunities in STEM.
That's exciting, and I'm one who is particularly excited about the drive for even vocational training, because it gives you hands-on experience. So that's the TVET. That's also an option that is available.
Yes, about
for
200 of them.
Yes, if you think that is the way you want to go as a young JHS graduate, the opportunities are there and they are vast. So you can quickly get on some hands-on experience, and yes, you will be given a certificate, and even if you want to further your studies, you can do that. So let me just say thank you to Kwesi Kwarteng, PRO, Ministry of Education, for joining us this morning here on the AM show. We'll quickly get interactive with you shortly. Benjamin Akakpo will be joining me for that, and do stay with us, and we'll bring you more right after this. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo has joined me again, and you know what that means. We are just about to get interactive with you, but before we do that, season 3 of the All Men Talk Show, the BMPS show, is back on your TV screens on Joy Prime. What do you think men talk about when they meet? Is it only women? Is it family? Do they talk about work, politics, health, technology, what celebrities are up to, or what song is trending? Well, join the bald, the muscled, the pot-bellied, and the skinny men on the best entertainment show in Ghana, the BMPS show, as they deliver fun-filled episodes about everything you can think of from a man's perspective. Stay tuned to Joy Prime for the ultimate experience from the first episode of season 3 this Friday on the 27th of January January 2023 at 9 p.m. There's a repeat, though, on Sundays at 9:30 p.m. if you don't catch Friday's show. The BMPS show is brought to you by Jameson Whiskey, Jameson Triple Distilled, twice as smooth. And water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions. 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags. 750 ml for the heavy drinkers and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake purified drinking water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. Call 026-235-1251 for bulk purchase. This advert is FDA approved. And Benjamin, it's now time to get interactive. What's the number to call?
0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. I wish I could be the first caller.
What's on your mind? Would you reserve that for Blunt Thoughts tomorrow?
Oh, part of it, yes.
Okay.
Our viewers can definitely expect it. I'll be talking about the Education Minister's response. That will be at the tail end of my Blunt Thoughts. And I'll be giving my candid, raw assessment of what he had to say.
And well, before I say anything, let me just pick our first caller. Yao was calling us from Ejuso. Hello, Yao. Let's hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say something about what the minister responded you with. I'm totally disappointed. I'm a fan. I've been watching JoyNews for about 5 years now, and then you guys are one of the most unbiased stations. Your credibility is that high, and for the minister to respond to you in that way, and then his PRO come and defend him that way is very, very, I think it's disrespectful, and then they are insulting our intelligence. I mean, these people, you people, he should have been even thankful for you to bring that documentary out. Baumia, you were there. You were there in 2016 saying that you were ashamed to have seen those kids and not having chair and table. You did politics with it, and then you came, you did nothing. They are showing you this documentary, and then your minister is saying this. These people are all incompetent. I don't know why we even vote. I voted only once, and I will not vote again. I don't know why people have voted about 7 times if they are still voting. These people, they don't deserve us. They don't. I go for the fire. Goodbye, guys.
Yes.
At this point, you can
Bernice.
tell that was holding back a lot, and he almost let his guard down.
We're glad, though, that you didn't, because you could tell he wanted to spill over into certain things, but he just
kept his cool. Yeah.
himself.
Well, Kojo is joining us from Accra. Hello, good morning. Let's hear you, please.
Yeah. Hello. This is Kojo. So this is what happened. In 2013, I was my village in King Kango. That is a few kilometers after Bungurugu. So after doing my master's, I decided to go back to the village to, see how things have been ever since the last time I went there. And definitely, education was one of the things I wanted to look out for. And I was surprised that nothing has changed. I went to the King Kango Basic School to see what was, happening there. But even though it was during vacation period, and I was surprised when I saw the School of Shame, video being aired on JoyNews, and I realized that it was the same thing. There was no desk, there was nothing. At one point, I even felt the exams was even written on the board, where you see end of term exams, and then you see some of the questions on the board and everything. What you showed what you aired on your station and the videos and pictures that I have with me, there was no difference. I was really surprised when I watched the Minister of Education speak about, responding to your video. At one point, I couldn't believe what he said. So I had to go and play the video again to make sure I understood what he said. And he said it was School of Fame. This has been happening since 2013, the last time I went there, before 2022. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And this is the best response he could give. I was very traumatized, so I started asking some of my cousins in the village how they go about it. I even asked my dad at one point. So he told me they are trying to mobilize some funds and contribute something to see if they can provide 1 or 2 days. It's very bad.
Right,
it's as though that part is not part of Ghana.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Kojo, there. So
and if I may just add, for those of you who may want to call, just also go right down to it so we can
engage
allow
more
other people to also
share
their thoughts.
You know, I just had an interaction with the PRO of the Ministry of Education, and he suggests that the minister's reference to schools of fame had to do with the children who he was addressing in there. But clearly, that was not as clear as you'd want it to be, because he mentioned schools of shame, then continues to proceed and say, can you tell these children? And well, we are told that the "these" is referring to them there, but clearly that is even where the problem is, because within the education sector, there's such a yawning gap, where some of the kids come from schools of fame and others come from schools of shame.
To be fair to the minister, I did. When I listened to him, I understood it in that context, that he was speaking about the G-step category, those who were there. But the other bit too is, especially how insensitive can you be when there is this picture painted to you and then you get such a platform, a rosy platform, and you want to say, that microcosm, that little thing there is so not reflective of all of those in Pandai, in Bunkurugu Yoyo, in all the other places in our country who don't have access to that. So you don't use that platform and come and say, we have schools of fame. For the way.
Osei is joining us from Kumasi. Osei, let's hear you.
Yeah, I think in my view, the documentary was not fair. I think the documentary was not fair.
Why was it not fair?
The schools that you showed on the TV that people are suffering, they have other issues. You see, there are good things that are happening, just like the minister said. There are places in America, I can bet you that you would not like your children to school there, but they don't put that on TV.
Let's just hold you to task. Ordinarily, we wouldn't do this.
Learn how to present our own story.
Where in the United States? Give us some examples. Give us some examples. Where in the United States?
Go to downtown Baltimore. Go to downtown Baltimore and look at the schools over there and see how they're complaining every day.
And no one talks about it.
They don't have facilities.
And no one talks about it.
You say you don't want to talk about it.
And I'm saying, and no one talks about it.
They only show you the STEM schools.
Sorry to interject. We appreciate your feedback. But you know what? For these children, and for many of them who live in these communities, until we tell their stories, they will never be heard. If you watched the documentary, you would realize that before the 2016 elections, now Vice President, then candidate, Dr. Baumia, visited one of these schools because he had seen the story on the news. And so when we highlight these stories, we even have philanthropists who decide to help these little children. So please, let us tell their stories, because for many of them, we are the only mouthpiece they have.
My point is that we always show the negative side of our system. Our journalists need to learn how to present the good side.
Well, thank you. Thankfully, we have our standards, and fortunately, we are not learning from.
The practice in Baltimore that after taking there, you don't like to live there. You don't like your children to school there, but they never put those on TV.
I'll say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. But once again,
we're glad he's sharing his knowledge about journalism. I don't know whether he's a journalist, but if you tell me that we should highlight the positives, which one of the positives have we not highlighted? Everything, every positive that this administration has done education-wise. And, you know, when the PRO was here saying that we should talk more about the positives, I don't know what exactly he was speaking of, but the point to be made is that the negatives far outweigh some of the positives that we speak of. We will not close our eyes to those negatives. We'll keep talking about them until those people in Pandai, until those people in Debi, until all those people in certain institutions. Would I want my child to be crawling on the floor to study in a classroom? No. And so if you promised us something, you must deliver.
And that is the basis of all of this. And I think that we need to understand even the context of the story.
I mean, this kind of hypocrisy where people...
There was a promise that was made.
Really.
There was a promise that was made. And we were just tracking if these promises were being met. And then we are being told rather that we are highlighting the downsides of Ghana. You know, as all this is happening...
Recently, the minister himself was talking about, and he's so plaintive himself when he should be solving problems rather than telling us what the problems are. You know, this entire system, you know, sometimes I contemplate our country and I feel sad.
You're talking
really
about
sad.
When he spoke about what the courses are in universities and how it makes
He's
the
constantly
graduates
telling us what the
unemployable.
problems are. And he wasn't demonizing our system. But when we put this out, we are.
I'm just remembering my days at the Ghana Institute of Journalism and all the lessons we had about who we really represent as journalists and what our role is. And it just beats my mind that we're actually being held to task because we did this.
Those kids that we just saw, and I want to capture this. Those kids, look at them. They don't have a voice. No one will know about their situation. In fact, our education setup should know about these children. We highlight it, and we are rather the ones in error.
Right.
God help Ghana.
Abdullah is joining us from Tamale. Hello, Abdullah. Let's hear you.
Hello, Abdullah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's hear you, please.
Please, I'm Abdullah calling from Tamale.
Yes, Abdullah, let's hear you.
I'm so impressed about that documentary you showed.
Abdullah?
Hello, are you there?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
So we are concentrated on the politicians, what the politician can do. But we are not looking at the critical issues we have. And then, what they use that money for. I don't know if those things in every sense, money are paid to the head of the school.
Abdullah, there's a problem with your line. It keeps breaking. If you can reposition yourself so we hear you clearly.
Okay.
Hello, Abdullah? Too bad we lost Abdullah. Abdullah, if you can reconnect with us, we'll be grateful. Do we have another caller? Well, we don't have another caller on the line. And Benjamin, I mean, if you are somebody who watches us, you know that Benjamin and I shy away from
You don't even need to go into explaining. Our viewers see what we do. Our discerning viewers, I am so peeved this morning, and I will not hide it. I am human too. Some of these reactions, they just rub me raw.
And you know, and to say that it happens outside the country.
Those were your children. And would you be happy?
You see, and to say that, oh, those outside the country do not do this, so don't do it.
And that is so hypocritical, and it is false. It is misinformation. Go to the United States. Those very places he's speaking of, every day these matters are highlighted. Even recently in Florida, when there was a new system containing some African education, and DeSantis was against it, signed against it, and all of that comes up. There are conversations about all of these. So how can anybody come and, I mean, sometimes they think we are not discerning, or we don't read, or we don't follow what goes on across the world. But that, by the way, was false information.
Abache. We have a last caller from Sunyani. Is it Boniface?
Yes, please.
All right, Boniface, please, let's hear you.
Hello.
Hello, Boniface, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to commend you guys for a good work done this morning.
Thank you very much, Boniface.
Sometimes I just
don't know how some of the Ghanaians think. When such documentary is being showed on the telly and you call to tell me that it's not fair on you guys, on your part of showing this documentary, how can you stand that way? And you telling JoyNews that it seems they always stick to the bad things that you always show on the telly. It's not fair. I want to ask that person who called that, has he been following JoyNews documentary? If not, then you should start following the documentary. Because it's not only the bastard that you guys show on the telly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Boniface from Sunyani is our last caller. Well, that has been our show today. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we go, though, happy birthday to Mr. Subi Akkad, CEO of Japan Motors. Have a beautiful day, sir. And this is from all of us at the Multimedia Group. May you live long. And happy birthday to Papa Ato Nyanka, Primary 5 pupil at Our Lady of Holy Cross Castle. This is from your parents, Frederick and Eunice Nyanka, and your siblings, Irabna and Nana Kobina. Do you have a good one and a very happy birthday once again, Benjamin? At least that got you smiling.
It did. I have a gift.
Okay.
A very nice gift.
Okay.
I'm packaging it. I'll put it in my blunt thoughts for tomorrow, and I'll deliver it to the Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Educhu, tomorrow. So our viewers can look forward to that.
Right. So do make a date with us, God willing, tomorrow. At least you know that you will be served some blunt thoughts from Benjamin Akakpo.
Carefully wrapped.
Who I'm helping to...
Don't go there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We are grateful from the entire team. We wish you the very best of the rest of the day. But do stay with us. Up next is News Desk on your most credible news source. I'm Bernice Lansah, and he is
Benjamin Akakpo.
Take care.